It's my birthday, and it's time to get unbothered.
Everything bothers him.
He's unbothered.
He calls it unbothered, but that's what's cute because everything bothers him. He's bothered. I'm a botherina.
Before we get started, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. What's up, everybody? Thai Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. Bijou is currently enjoying a Whimzees Alligator, Whimzees Alligators, the never-to-be sponsor of Unbothered by Thai Rivera, but we still give them a shout-out anyway, and if you would like to buy Whimzees Alligators for your dog, check down below in the description box. You will see my Amazon affiliates link for Whimzees Alligators. Okay, so what you just saw were the comedic stylings of a person named Shang X Forbes on Facebook. If you're interested in getting a little bit more of that genius, maybe. I don't blame you. It's a lot to take in. I can't give you as much as I would like to give you on this particular episode, but you're going to get plenty. So here's what happened. On or about the day of January 10th, 2021, I was tagged in a post by my friend Tiffany L. Davis. Apparently, Shang was looking for a guest for his podcast or some guest for his podcast. I hadn't heard of his podcast. I know Shang. I've known him casually for years now. I don't think too much of his comedy and never have. But I always have respected his hustle. He works hard to get booked. And he's been able to get booked a lot off very little. And I don't mean to be shady when I say that, but just, you guys saw a clip. That was him editing that, or he paid somebody to edit that. That was what he considered to be a good sample of what he does. So that gives you an idea of, in general, what's going on there. Anyway, one time when we were backstage at the Laugh Factory in San Manuel, which if you're not familiar is kind of San Bernardino area, kind of ghetto, but it paid well and I like to do it because I would usually have fun there. It was never a guaranteed good time though, but it was a Laugh Factory room and I was a Laugh Factory regular. Laugh Factory was my home club for a long time. And so he was the host at one point, and this was back when Trump won 2016. And we were talking backstage, and he started to get really loud with me. And there was a point where I just told him, that's not necessary. If you're trying to have a conversation with me, have a conversation with me. But don't try to get loud because we're both grown men and it's just unnecessary. He immediately apologized. I'm not saying I punked him out because that's not the way it went. He just was... When it comes down to it, Shang was raised right. You know, he knows how to behave like an adult. And that's what I respected about him was he was able to see that, yeah, he was, because, I mean, like, it wasn't regular heated debate. Like, it got to a point where he started trying to yell and talk at me like I was a child. And that's when I was like, yeah, we're not doing that. And so he went ahead and adjusted himself, and I respected that. You know, I always respect when people are willing to accept that maybe they were going a little bit far, and I wasn't tripping off of it. So when I got hit up and a friend had said, Tiffany L. Davis had shown, you know, like suggested me, I commented on the post, and I was like, yeah, I'll do your podcast. So then he hit me up, gave me a couple dates that might work. I gave him a date, gave him a date out of those that worked for me. We ended up making it happen. I asked him ahead of time if there was a format to the podcast or if it was just me and him talking or him and a co-host. He said it was him and a co-host. He didn't say anything about a format. I didn't even know the name of the podcast. So people afterwards asked me, why would you go on a podcast called Savage AF, which if you're not familiar means savage as fuck, if you weren't expecting for them to go at you like that. And it was like, I didn't even know the name of the podcast. I didn't know anything about the podcast. Maybe I didn't do my due diligence in figuring out more about the podcast, but I figured when he said there was no format, that there's no format. We're just going to chat and it's going to be cool. One thing I didn't like that was unprofessional was they were supposed to send me topics and they didn't send me the topics. And so I asked them a couple of times about the topics and then they went ahead and sent me a message saying that we're going to talk about bitch McConnell, which I always hate when people like Hillary or the different stupid names people have, 45, whatever. I just always think those are so childish, but whatever. I didn't care. I was still down to do the podcast. We were supposed to talk for 15 minutes and it ended up being closer to an hour. So we're going to go through the podcast and I'm going to tell you guys what I wanted to say throughout it. And you guys will see what's going on and kind of why this whole situation got on my nerves. So let's jump into it.
So Shane, I'm gonna let you introduce this because I wasn't sure this was gonna go down today, and it is. So I'm gonna let you go ahead and introduce it and bring it.
Yeah, well, we got a comedian that tours all over the country. He just came back from Vegas doing a show. He does shows all over the country and very opinionated. I remember one time he told me that I was the most hated man in LA for making a comment about Big Leslie.
I'm going to stop him right there. I never knew he got into it with Big Leslie. I got into it with Big Leslie. When you hear me jumping on the podcast, I thought he was talking about me and Big Leslie. That's why my story doesn't match up with what he was talking about. What I told him that people were mad at him about, or what I mentioned to him, because he already knew, because he had pulled down the post, which is something I guess he's known for doing. But what it was he had gotten bitter because he thought people were getting HBO specials that didn't deserve them, and he referred to them as Make-A-Wish HBO specials. And he put that in several different comedy boards, and the different comedy communities really dragged him. So he knew everybody hated him. So I don't know what he's talking about. Like, people were just giving him the "who are you" and "you're nobody" and that kind of stuff. And they really put him through it. And I got to admit, I thought it was kind of funny. I mean, like, I didn't care. I wasn't mad. But, he had called out Quincy Jones, comedian Quincy Jones, who got a special because he had cancer. And then there was Gerard Carmichael that he called out, who Gerard didn't have any kind of sickness or whatever. So I don't really know what he was getting at, but those comedy communities let him have it.
And that resonated with me. So I thought, okay, he's feisty. So we're going to bring him onto the show. Thai Rivera, you guys. There you go. I remember you saying that.
That was the intro. That was the intro.
Big Les, the thing with Big Les was actually just, I felt she was being ungrateful at a point. I mean, like, she was so successful and is so successful, and she was letting these trolls like really get under her skin. And she'd also got upset about, there were a lot of things that she had vented about at that time. And I just felt like, you're in a summer blockbuster right now. Like, why don't you be happy for all the good things that are happening instead of being worried about a troll with 45 followers?
Exactly. But I just felt like she was bitching about shit. I go, wait a minute, get in your fucking Rolls Royce and shut up. It's like,
exactly. What are you so worried about? Don't be pressed by people that don't matter.
Now I'm going to stop right here because you're going to see me not take my own advice. I said, don't get pressed by people that don't matter. You're going to see me for the duration of this podcast be pressed by people that don't matter.
okay, well, let people know a little bit because we got a lot of people online are in the feed. Let them know a little bit about you, and then we're going to talk about the topic, which is Fauci is back, which is it's not like a sequel to anything. He's back for real, and he seems really confident that we can get through this shit called COVID. So let them know.
My name is Thai Rivera. I'm an openly gay stand-up comedian that usually works in redneck clubs. I am Latino, in case anybody can't read the color of my skin through this lighting. I supported Donald Trump. I voted for him twice. Some people have a problem with that, but it is what it is.
And
I will say, Ty, by the way, I'm Black Pedro.
I thought you never worked together before.
No, I haven't.
No, not together on the same show. But I've seen you around town. I've seen a few sets of yours. I know you're a bold comic on stage. I appreciate that as a fellow artist in that field. So as a Trump supporter, I will say that in this arena, that's not a safe space. So we thank you for stepping into that. I'm pretty sure you may have understood that.
Yeah, he knows.
The he knows gets on my nerves because I didn't know. I mean, like, yeah, I would assume that they were going to want to talk to me about that, but I didn't know that they were going to be combative about it, which I ended up finding out later is in the bio of their podcast. They say they like to get combative, which I can tell you, if I'd known that they were looking for combative, I wouldn't have shown up because I just don't like arguing with people. I don't have time for it. I don't want to do it. It's just not my life. But it is what it is, and here we are. Also, never heard of Black Pedro in my entire life. So that was me being nice and being like, yeah, I don't know this guy. But whatever. He's just a podcast host as far as I go. That's what it's supposed to be. So what do I care? I don't have to know you.
I'm openly gay, Mexican, and I perform in redneck clubs. I'm not used to being in safe spaces.
Yeah, no, hey, live out loud. So we're gonna do this real quick. Our audience usually hates these segments, so we'll keep it quick. I usually like to ask 4 questions,
and then I'll ask 4 questions in succession. They'll be very short.
You guys each ask 4 questions in succession? That sounds like a format to me. I might be wrong. Maybe I don't know what a format is anymore, but to me, that sounds like it might be a format. Let's see what happens with these 4 questions.
Of Trump supporters. All right, so who do you believe won the 2020 presidential election?
Well, obviously, Joe Biden is our president.
Okay, so that's a good answer.
But do you believe he won the election?
I believe that there was some shadiness involved, and I think that anybody that doesn't agree with that or doesn't admit to that isn't being honest with kind of the facts and what we've seen. I would like to know what actually happened. I'm not one of those people that thinks like Donald Trump won and that's just why we didn't hear anything. But you have to admit, there's never been another time. We used to stay up through the elections all the time. There's never been another time where they shut it down at 11 p.m. and we're like, all right, nothing to see here. So and then with the situation that happened in Fulton County at the, what was it?
Where Black people voted? Yeah, that's crazy. All right, so these are honestly just based.
Don't try to do that to me.
See, this is what got on my nerves about that part is when he's like, where Black people voted? Yeah, that's crazy. And then he just starts talking like that's what I was saying. That's you putting words into my mouth. I don't have a problem with Black people voting. I'm a person of color. I mean, like, really, you think that Black people voting is what my problem was? No, not at all. What I was talking about in Fulton County was at State Farm Arena where they had that situation where they said that there was a water main that had burst, and then later on they couldn't find the repair ticket for it. And then the vice president of facilities for the Atlanta Hawks NBA team said that it was highly exaggerated. It was a slow leak that caused about an hour and a half delay. We contained it quickly. It did not spread. We just wanted to protect the equipment. That was all they could find as far as what had happened at State Farm Arena. So that seemed a little bit shady to me. My problem was that, and a lot of people have brought that up. So I don't know why he's trying to turn it into me saying that I had a problem with Black people voting, which that wasn't where I was going with that at all. So no, you're not going to put words in my mouth and pretend that that's what I meant when that's not at all what I was saying.
Like where
no. I'm not trying to do anything. I'm not trying to do anything. That's a baseline thing. That's a baseline thing. But honestly, these are just base questions just to see where you at. Like, yeah, I'll do whatever. This is my show. Welcome to my show.
But Ty, my question. Let me ask my question.
Okay.
Welcome to my show.
There's no code language going on this end.
No,
don't do that with me.
It's already done, dog. This is my show. I'm gonna do whatever I want.
I'll do whatever. This is my show. Okay, that's a real grown-up way to do this. I'll do whatever. This is my show, and you're having a conversation with me. Probably not going to work out that way.
Okay,
I'm supposedly your guest, so
no, I hear you.
I said it's not a safe space, though, dog.
I'm not looking for a safe space, but I will be treated fairly. That's something that will happen.
Okay. Well, let me ask you a question. I will follow up with that question. Okay, so you believe that there was some chicanery that went on, some bullshit went down with the election, but ultimately he fucking lost. Trump lost, and he's about to get indicted. So anything, it doesn't matter. This is what's going to happen. Right. No. 81 million people is more than 73 million people, and 306 electoral votes is more than 200.
I'm really just trying to get through 4 base questions just to see where we at on the spectrum, right?
Yeah, then don't cut me up at any point and say anything.
Well, no. But these are black. These are really just yes or no. These are really.
Well, if it was just yes, no, you guys wouldn't have paused because I had said I gave you an answer at the beginning, and then you guys.
So these are just yes or no's. Is all I'm saying, right? Like these are just quickie based questions, just to say, hey, where are you at politically? So no, you don't really believe that Joe Biden won a fair election. My next question is, do you believe that
you just saw my eyes notice that I've been muted?
That 400,000 plus people now have died from the coronavirus. Just yes or no?
You just answered the question for me while muting my mic. Do you think I
didn't mute your mic? Nobody
of course,
muted
I did. I muted his mic because I'm just trying to get through.
You want to be in control of the conversation. You want to be. No, you answered that.
I'm always in control of the conversation.
That's how the show is, man. So listen,
we're always in control.
Okay, no.
I'm asking you.
I thought we were just gonna have a conversation, not have my.
I'm trying to get to 4 base questions.
But answer the question. Hold up, Pedro. Answer the question, and we'll go to the next question.
Me the question if I thought Donald Trump had
right, and I said
exactly, Joe Biden is our president. That's exactly
and you thought, right. So that was your answer.
You wanted me to say something, so I went ahead and started talking again, and then he went ahead and tried to talk over me. So I don't know what you guys are trying to do here, but it's not.
Okay, fine. So do you believe that 400,000 people have died from the coronavirus? COVID-19.
I think that those numbers are skewed too, because if you look at the way that they were doing it, look at what I mean, what's that?
That's a no, right? You don't believe that many people have died. That's all I'm asking. I mean, you can explain it, but I'm just we're just setting a base. We believe that they have, you believe that they haven't. Right. I'm just trying to set up the dichotomy, dog. That's it. I'm really you can explain, you're not going to convince us of that or my audience. And I'm not going to
convince you of anything. I'll tell you what I do.
I don't need the explanation.
Hold
on. We've all heard the thing though. We all have our rhetoric. So I'm just saying you don't believe that many people have died, right? You don't, and we do.
Let me explain to you real quick, okay?
Go ahead.
I take time out of my day to do your guys' show. The minimum that I will ask is that I be treated with respect. So if you ask me a question, I'll answer your question. You don't answer for me. I don't need anybody to. So what you're saying is, no, that's not what you're doing. That's not what I'm doing. I'm not going to put words in your mouth at any point.
That's right. Sip your wine, girl. Sip your wine.
I don't expect to have words put in mine. When it comes down to it, if you look at even what they said, one of the, I can't remember who the spokesman was that said it.
It was the director of the health department in Illinois.
That they were actually, if a person had COVID at the time that they died, they were counting that as a COVID death.
Right.
So when it comes to that, no, I don't necessarily think that it's 400,000 people that have died of COVID. Have 400,000 people died with COVID? Yes. Do I think 400,000 people have died of COVID? No.
This is where it gets annoying. Let me play this clip really quick and show you guys why I gave the answer that I gave.
I just want to be clear in terms of the definition of people dying of COVID. So the case definition is very simplistic. It means at the time of death, it was a COVID positive diagnosis. So that means that if you were in hospice and had already been given, a few weeks to live, and then you also were found to have COVID, that would be counted as a COVID death. It means that even if you died of a clear alternate cause, but you had COVID at the same time, it's still listed as a COVID death. So everyone who's listed as a COVID death doesn't mean that was the cause of the death, but they had COVID at the time of death. I hope that's helpful.
Okay, that's an answer. That's an answer.
Do you believe in Q?
No.
Okay. But there we go. See,
Tyler, that was in there. Okay. But let me ask something.
Hold on. Wait. Okay. I got my last question.
And then I'll ask you a question.
I got I have a premise. It's based on a personal premise that if you are a Trump supporter, you are either really rich, really racist, or both. Do you fall into any of those three categories?
Now, this is where I truly began to feel like Pedro was dumb. And I know he gets mad later on. Spoiler alert, I end up telling him that I think he's dumb. But the reason I think he's dumb is because when you're a smart person, when you're an intelligent person, you don't have to force people into these boxes in order to make your argument. What you're telling me when you say that this is what you think is there's only three ways you're willing to go at this, or there's only three ways that a person can disagree with you. They have to be really rich, really racist, or both. So, of course, I already think you're dumb because you're not willing to just talk to me about this just as me, the individual. I have to fit into one of these boxes for your arguments to work. So you already showed your hand. Dumb.
Okay, well then, all right then. No,
I didn't mute your mic now, so go ahead and answer if you want to.
I think that's a dumb thing to say. Like, it's not even a question. It's like, I want you to know what I think, and then do you like? If you're asking do I agree with you, no, I don't agree with you. But I'm either of those two things.
It's based on a personal premise.
But you also said they were yes or no.
You identified
yes and a no question.
They did say yes or no questions, and then they gave me anything but a yes or no questions. Technically, pretty much none of their questions have been yes or no questions, so they're not even smart enough to know that. I hate to be mean, but they're just dumb. I mean, like, it's like I've done podcasts with really smart people. It's just what it is. You know, I've talked to people that are very, very intelligent. And so when I'm dealing with these two buffoons, it's just, I feel insulted. Like, my intelligence feels insulted even being there. I'm mad at myself for even allowing myself to get into this situation. And it was me. Nobody else got me booked for this. It was me that did this. So blame this guy.
Listen, if you're really rich, you don't have to be racist. You could be in it for the tax.
And if you're really good at what you're trying to do, you don't have to try to put the other person in another position that they're not in.
Okay, first off, hey, everybody, whoa, everybody. Now, so you think it's a dumb question? I got it. My question to you is, you get a lot of backlash sometimes, not only from, when you do redneck clubs, because I've done a lot of the same fucking clubs you've done.
See, this is where Shane gets confused. He thinks because we do the same room sometimes, which we do actually do the same room sometimes, but he thinks that we're the same because we do those rooms. And that makes no sense to me. The clown and the trapeze artist are in the same circus. That doesn't mean they're dealing with the same level of skill. So stay in your place, clown.
Okay, from redneck clubs, you get a lot of backlash. So I knew you can handle. It's not like you couldn't handle a fucking question or a debate. But the thing is, you get indignant by the question instead of answering the question. If you notice, the first question I answered, well, Joe Biden is our president, so, and then they wanted more. So I didn't get indignant by the question. I got indignant by the fact that they would cut me off or they'd start talking over me. That's what I got indignant by. So even that, misrepresentation, it's like these two don't know how to make their argument without projecting onto me. They have to turn it into what I'm doing instead of like acknowledging their own stupidity, their own behavior. So frustrating. I should have never, ever, ever done this podcast.
No, actually, I started off.
You did.
Actually, I started off being very polite.
No, you started off. I'm saying let's just keep it.
The minute somebody puts words into my mouth, I get very annoyed because I'm so used to people doing that, and it's such a problem I have with the way people work on the internet now. Is if people want to talk to you and get your opinions on things, I'm fine with that. I'm always willing to answer any question. But the thing I don't like is when people try to speak for me and put words in my mouth, and that's something that I just won't do with people. Like
and on the flip side, I think people try and explain away a lot of stuff when it's like, bro, I asked you if you believe 400,000 people have died from COVID.
I gave you a very good answer to that.
You gave me an explanation, but at the end of the day, it's no. You do not believe 400,000 people have died.
To be clear, I believe 400,000 people have died with COVID. Even that. There's false positives. There's false negatives. We don't know what the numbers are on COVID. Why is that such a thing to argue for some people? Like, these two idiots don't get it. There's really nothing to argue there. What are you arguing with me about? Does anybody really know the numbers for COVID? I would be willing to bet Anthony Fauci doesn't know the real numbers for COVID. The CDC doesn't know the real numbers for... Nobody knows the real numbers for COVID. That's just what it is. So get over it. Stop trying to push that point, dummy.
That's that. That's it.
No, that's not what it is.
I know that. I know. I can tell you what you said. You said that 400,000 people have died with COVID, but not from it. And I asked you if people have died from it.
There you go.
I know what you said, but I asked you if people
died from it. It was from it.
No, you don't believe that. That's all I'm saying.
That's all.
We're on different ends of I'm just trying to set up the teeter-totter, right? Like, where are we on the spectrum, right? How far away from the middle are we, right? You do not believe that. I believe that those people have died from it, right?
Quick fun fact. George Floyd actually had COVID at the time that he died. I wonder if Shang and Black Pedro think that George Floyd died of COVID, or did George Floyd die because of the cop's knee on his neck? Is he one of the COVID numbers? That's all I want to know. Is he one of the COVID numbers?
Whether they had it or not.
The person that dies in a car accident that has COVID died of COVID. You think COVID is what killed them and not the car accident? That's what you're telling me.
What if they passed out from COVID and veered off the road?
Who passes out from COVID?
We have heard no stories of people passing out from COVID and wrecking their car or any of that stuff. Like, I don't know if maybe there's some stories I haven't heard about where that did happen, but that's what I meant by who passes out from COVID. Like, I haven't heard a lot about that. Like, people usually go to the hospital with COVID and then they end up getting worse from there. They don't realize, like, I just haven't heard of that. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are people passing out behind the wheel with COVID and I'm just not aware.
People who can't breathe well?
Yeah, their respiratory system goes out and then that happens. That's real. That is real.
Not from COVID, but Shang has passed out behind the wheel. Into the
asymptomatic, which is like another thing that happens. People will be asymptomatic, then they would have no symptoms of COVID. So that person wouldn't have breathing problems. That person wouldn't pass out.
You just placed asymptomatic situation on our, hypothetical driver, right?
Well,
so this is totally ineffective because we're now making up scenarios that may or may not have happened.
Right.
My thing wasn't about putting words in your mouth, right? I asked these 4 questions very specifically to try and reach a base to see where we are, and you want to explain when really it's very simple. Like, yes, you believe that. No, you don't believe this. No, you don't believe in Q. No, we don't either. Okay, we're both there, right? Like, so I'm just trying to see where we are. And at the end of the day, you don't really believe that Joe Biden won a fair election, in my opinion, based on your answer, because you think there was some chicanery or tomfoolery, right? And I believe that,
and we don't use the word chicanery or tomfoolery that much. It's rare.
I use those words never. The fact that those words even got introduced in the conversation were these two geniuses. So take that for what it's worth.
And irregularities, quote unquote, for those who are listening on the podcast and can't see me doing it, there are irregularities in every election, right? But over 60 cases were rejected by courts, including the Supreme Court. So whatever irregularities happened had nothing to do with the outcome of the election. So to speak that on this show, I'm gonna check that, and I don't feel I'm putting words in your mouth, Ty. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's just it. Like, I think I'm just cutting through the explanation,
asking the question,
asking the root answer.
But I understand your reaction.
That's how I do it.
I understand your reaction. I absolutely understand your reaction, and I know that's how you react on across the board. When it's like, yo, don't do that to me. I'm standing up for what I fucking want to say, and that's it. I get it. What I wanted to ask you is, how did Shang end up the moderate one on this motherfucker? Yeah, and I'm the furthest thing from
what the fuck just happened?
Okay, what I'm saying is the bottom line is, you gotta admit there's a lot of fucking weird shit and he's done a lot of horrible shit. I want to know what the fuck is wrong with you to support them. You're a smart dude to even vote for him twice. What did he do that you go, man, that was smart. Man, he's talented. Man, he works hard. What is it about Trump that made you go, you know what? He's a better candidate than anybody else. I just want to know. Now, I understand people hated Hillary. I don't understand why they hate Biden. Biden's like the old fuddy-duddy man that's in the fucking balcony on the Muppets. It's not like he's a mean person.
The 1994 crime bill, that was just a fuddy-duddy old man. Plagiarism, that's just a fuddy-duddy old man. Being creepy, which we've all seen, that's just a fuddy-duddy old man. Yeah, you're right, Shang. There's nothing at all to not like about Biden. He's just waiting for his jello.
What is it about Trump that you go, yeah, he's so talented. Forget the narcissism. He's so talented.
Well, that's you, again, projecting onto me. Like, you don't just ask me the question. You're like, he's so talented. Like, who said that? Did I say that? I didn't.
So why did you?
I've been quiet listening to you.
Okay, I'm sorry. So I'll answer that. What is it about him that is so fantastic that made you vote for him?
Well, see, even that is a dumb question.
Why did you vote for him?
Okay, I'm sorry. Why did you vote for him?
Well, there were several reasons I voted for him. And one of the biggest reasons that I voted for him is because people have always been so...
Now, at this point, I'm already flustered, and I'm trying to make these points that are usually easy for me to just spit out, but I'm annoyed with both of them, and I'm trying to figure out how I want to do this. And really, I'm thinking about just bailing because I'm done with both of them. I'm annoyed. I didn't come on. That's not what I'm doing on your podcast. Just stop being dumb, both of you.
Like with Obama, you take Obama, I voted for him twice. And the thing was, because Obama said everything with a smile, they were actually able to get away with quite a few things. Like, that's where the cages came from. When people talk about Trump putting kids in cages, those cages were there from Obama. Like, that was Obama and Barack.
They didn't have kids in them.
What's that? They did have kids in them. They just had the kids with the families. And that's where the pictures came from. So people had a problem with the fact that the kids were being separated. So, or that's what it turns out people must have had the problem with, because if it was just cages in general, then they should have been mad back with Obama and Biden. But because people saw Obama with the smiling face and Obama, put a nice picture to everything, people were more distracted by that. And with Trump, people were willing to watch every single thing he did. And I feel like people should continue to do that. That's why yesterday when I was looking at Twitter and people were acting like, we can finally relax now, Biden is off. No, you can't relax. You should be watching him just as closely as you watch Trump. You should watch everybody that same way. So for me, that was a big part of why I voted for Trump, because he made people pay attention. People were actually looking at things. You know how many people educated themselves on politics because of Donald Trump and the stuff that he was doing?
He's exhausted because I'm not working with his narrative. So how is he supposed to do this when I'm not working with his narrative? So now he's taxing his little brain, trying to think of what he's supposed to say. When if he had just asked me who my ideal candidate would have been or what I really wanted to see happen, I would have easily told him that really Tulsi seemed exciting to me. Tulsi Gabbard seemed exciting to me. But the fact that they didn't give her a chance is the reason that I was like, okay, well then I'll go with Trump, because they put us in that position again where it's like, okay, then you can either vote for Biden or you're racist. And I was like, I'm not going for that. I'm not just going to vote for Biden because you say that if I don't, then now I'm racist. That's not the way this is going to work. This is what they tried to do to us with Hillary too. Bernie at that time, I personally had no intentions of voting for Bernie. At that point in the last election in 2016, I was pretty well just set on voting for Donald Trump. That's what it was. But Bernie might have been able to excite me if he had gotten a chance, but he didn't get a chance. He had it stolen from him by the DNC. And then that made me even more firm in like, okay, well, if the DNC can't even play fair with their own side, then I don't want to go with whoever their selection is. And their selection was Hillary, which in my opinion was a horrible, horrible choice. And so I was like, yeah, I don't want Hillary. So that's what it is. You're not going to bully me or force me into voting for the person that you want me to vote for.
There's a lot of
that's like going around and kicking people in the balls to be like, now you pay attention to your balls, don't you? I mean, it's like you could just introduce people to a cup.
Yeah, if you're dumb, you see it that way. Yeah, if you're dumb, completely, 100%.
Yeah.
That was a bad analogy. So gloves are off. I think you're dumb. There, let's get it all out on the table because I think you're dumb. And now I'm done playing with you. I'm done trying to explain. Now I am here to hurt your feelings. It's a good thing your podcast slogan is fuck your feelings, because there's nobody more fuck your feelings than I am. I'll tell you that. I'm a real fuck your feelings motherfucker.
Yeah,
well, a lot of his followers.
I mean, it's easy, and we see that.
But Ty, a lot of his followers are dumb. They're dumb. They're ignorant. They said uneducated. They said, I'm not saying you are.
See, they keep trying to remind me, or Shane keeps trying to remind me that he doesn't think I'm dumb. And it's like, of course, because I'm not dumb. I'm not here to convince you of anything. I'm not here to make you vote for Trump. That ship has sailed. Trump is not an option anymore. So what do you think I'm trying to convince you of? I'm just here to have a conversation, was what I thought we were going to do. And you can't hear me out. See, the way I work is I'm not trying to convince anybody of why they should have voted the way I voted or why they should vote the way that I vote. What I try to do is let people see why it is I voted the way that I voted and what my thinking was, and at the same time listen to them and hear why they voted the way that they voted and what their thinking was. And then at the end of the day, in my ideal circumstance, what happens is I get a little better understanding of who you are, you get a little better understanding of who I am. We know each other a little better. We move on with our lives. That's the way I see it. I'm not here to convince you of anything. I don't even know why anybody thinks I would be there to convince anybody of anything. Maybe because that's what you're trying to do, is convince me that there's a way that I should think.
Uneducated white males.
People in general are dumb. People in general are dumb and don't pay attention to a lot of things. That's what it is.
So it wasn't just, and it wasn't that, and it's an insult to say, well, Obama did it with a smile, like he wasn't an intellectual, smart, competent man. Trump has never been a smart, competent man. He's never been.
Also, but beyond that, like let's get to the refinement of the difference between locking a family up who may have crossed the border, quote unquote, illegally or whatever, right? Versus separating the kids to purposely kind of set a precedent, like don't bring your ass up here, right? To like intimidate families. Like that was
evil.
The sort of stated also purpose of.
Well, that is what immigration is trying to do, right? That is,
but also that
is why we put all that money towards that.
I wasn't quite done, but also like you want a strong border, right? So you want a space where you can hold people to investigate or whatever, right? But like the thing of like separating like they had babies in court, like with a court appointed attorney, like literally an infant that's shitting its pants.
And to be fair, that's where it could have been a real quick, like, let me tell you something, if he had just been cooler, and then we could have talked about that a little bit more. Because, yeah, during Trump's administration, there was an increase in unaccompanied minors having to go before immigration courts. But that was happening during Obama too, to the point where Obama and his team had considered actually changing the policy because people knew that the kids would get special treatment, so they wanted to do something to kind of curb that, because they had like 68,541, if we're going to give it an actual number. That's the number they give. Kids come through unaccompanied. And so they had to come up with a way to deal with that. At the same time, they had almost as many families come through. It was like people were coming through in unprecedented numbers back in 2013, 2014. So what happened was they started rethinking the way they did policies, because they were originally keeping people outside, and they had this area that was like 90 plus degree heat in McAllen, Texas. And then they went ahead and rented this air conditioned warehouse. And then they went ahead and put the fences in, as you know, the cages in fences as ways of like separating the different groups, like teenage boys, teenage girls, families. Like that's the way they were doing it back in the Obama era. So yeah, there were just cages, and that was the more humane way, because not only could they get ventilation in that, you know, from the air conditioning, like running through the cages if they put like, you know, chain link, They also were able to have the guards be able to keep an eye on everything because you can obviously see through the chain link. So when it comes down to it, even though it sounds ugly, it is a more humane way of doing things. That's just what it is. We were having an influx that we didn't know how to deal with, and so that's what Obama did. And so we could have talked about that, but they were too busy trying to argue with me, so whatever.
So just to be clear, you're all right with people being in cages just as long as the family unit is kept together.
We're black men in America, so we've been in cages for so long. Like,
take note, he just said he's a black man, so that's going to come in handy later.
People have been locked up. But hold on.
You personally were in a cage. Answer that. When was the last time you were in a cage?
In 2013.
You were in a cage?
I was in LA County jail for like 20
That's not a cage. Hours. That's not a cage.
It had bars that I couldn't get out of it.
Like, cages in the border.
Okay, at this point, cage is like a metaphor. We're talking about
I'm not
a thing you can't get out of.
A literal cage, because
we're talking about a thing you can't get out of.
Border, right?
Are we talking about metaphors? Because I really thought we were talking about actual cages. Are there metaphorical cages that they're putting people in at the borders? Because if they are, I don't really see what's to talk about. I thought we were talking about literal cages. Maybe I'm the one that's off.
Are we talking about something else? Because I thought we were talking about cages.
You still haven't. So the reason. So wait a minute. The reason you voted for Trump. That was the reason you voted for Trump, because you thought that that Obama put a smile on things, and Trump.
Shang and Black Pedro will make my point right now.
I will also add that this is a stain for me on the Obama administration as well, because Barack did go down there. He sat with Rick Snyder, and that motherfucker sipped the water and was like, "Oh, I'm a little thirsty. Oh, this is not so bad." I'm like, Barack, if you don't get your black ass up out that room,
unfortunately,
all these crackers on your way out and get Negroes water.
I like Barack.
No, of course I do.
But guess what?
But I'm saying this was also a stain.
He needed to be in the dunk tank.
I wouldn't put Barack in it, but I would say
in the dunk tank.
Yeah, I mean, it was hard. I know the community did not like seeing Barack sit up there rubbing elbows with these dudes and then sipping water in Flint, like everything was okay. And he didn't even drink out of a bottled water. Like I'm sure they took bottled water and poured it into a glass. Right. But the imagery makes it look like tap water. Like he
like it was clear, clean water, and he's like, don't. Oh, I'm in the water.
No, I'm a little parched.
I'm a little splash. What was the reason?
Every politician puts a smile on things.
He was.
So okay, and then when you get to immigration specifically, you realize that in a lot of cases when people come here illegally, they get exploited for their entire lives. That's something that does happen. So if you have like a stronger system and a better way of like making sure that we filter some of that out, then people are more likely to get ahead. Like there was even a thing that was done on it. I think it was MSNBC that talked about it. And during Trump's 4 years, the people that were the immigrants that had come here illegally were actually getting more money from the people that they were working for because there was less of a flow coming in, so they had to treat them better.
Dan says he's not happy with either political party or the divisiveness in our country, but he credits the Trump administration's tough policies with stemming the flow of cheap labor.
The hourly wage that the workers are getting on these farms has gone up by quite a bit.
And what do you attribute that to?
Probably because they're ready to come across the border. So you have less workers. You got to pay more to keep the ones you got.
But what the fuck does that have to do with why Trump's a good person to vote for?
People will never understand. There's just certain benefits sometimes to having certain people in certain places, especially when you consider the alternative. When it comes down to immigration, nothing was getting done about it. Like it had been 9 years. When people talked about DACA, when the people talked about Trump giving them 9 months to work on that, they'd actually had like 9 years and 9 months, and that's no exaggeration. I had to do a taping about it. It was done at Comedy Central Stages, and we talked about that. And that was the thing with that situation was they had been bouncing this around, the issue of immigration and what they were going to do, and amnesty, and whether or not there was going to be a path to citizenship, and the way that all was going to work out. So when one side is completely willing to sweep it under the rug and let these people, which technically are my people, get swept under the rug or exploited for the rest of their lives, as opposed to somebody that's going to give them at least a definite answer. I think a definite answer is more humane than keeping people in limbo for their entire lives and letting them get exploited. And yeah, you can hope life is going to be better for your kids, but you're going to be breaking your back for $8 an hour or $7 under the table or whatever bullshit they decide to give you. Like, it's to me, that's like, that alone to me is, I don't know. Like I said, dumb people. I shouldn't waste my time.
He was a fucked up businessman who was bankrupt all the time. Am I lying? Is it a fact? I'm saying facts.
You want to focus on one person, and that's the problem I have with whatever.
His whole administration was evil as fuck and racist as fuck.
Yeah, but it's not completely.
Yeah, but yeah, not completely.
No,
yeah, but
no, you're.
See, this, when he starts laughing, this is when he gets on my nerves, because idiots don't know how to talk, and it gets like, I hate when dumb people try to laugh like they're smart, like, you know, you're the laughable one. It's like, there's a whole way you could have had this conversation. Even if you wanted to make me look dumb, you could have taken it a whole different way. Like, these dummies, it's like they probably run with scissors.
See, I kind of hate talking to dumb people, and I just don't feel like you're very smart.
Hold up. Flat out. Wait a minute. You're talking to. First off, do you really?
Don't even. It's all good.
Do you think I'm dumb? Honestly.
No, I'm talking to the other guy I'm talking to right
Pedro?
now.
You mean the Princeton graduate?
What? He graduated from Princeton? Why didn't you start off with that? Then I would have known he was smart. If you need a degree on your wall to feel smart, a degree that you paid way too much for, by the way, I don't think you're that smart just for having a degree. I'm sorry, but I think college makes a lot of dumb people think that they're smart.
That's not impressive. He's not going to care about that. It's not. That's not going to impress him. None of that. I get it. No. I already get that. I'm smart enough to get that. Like, I didn't throw that out. Like, I don't rest my laurels on that. You know
I'm not saying a feeling.
I just said I don't. So
exactly. I'm not saying a feeling. I'm not saying a feeling. I'm saying a fact. I'm saying facts.
No, you're saying
a failed businessman. He was a failed businessman. That's a fact.
A failed businessman, no, like that's.
He was propped up by white privilege.
You know, all right.
Propped up by white privilege, and he was not a good businessman. He had 7 bankruptcies. Am I lying?
When you win for president, then you can talk to me about failure.
See, you can't really say somebody's a failure when they win the presidency. It's just not the way it works. Also, we all knew about Donald Trump from the 80s. Like, that's the thing. Like, he's a master at marketing. So if I had been able to get my thoughts together, that's what I would have told them. I would have just told them about the fact that he's great at marketing, the fact that we all knew his name, he had brand recognition, and yeah, maybe a lot of shit did fail for him. Honestly, a lot of shit did fail for him, and that's not something that I deny either. It's like, there's a way you could have this conversation and have me fully admit. It's just when you're not trying to have middle ground, I'm not going to admit to anything you want me to say. At that point, it's like, okay, you're setting up this wall, I'm setting up this wall, and yeah, I'm done trying to be the bigger. I did your podcast trying to be the bigger person. Like, I thought that I was doing you guys a favor by even sitting in on your Nobody Listens podcast, which people ask me why I decided to do a podcast that has no listeners. And the truth is, I thought we could have a good conversation, and then I was going to promote it. But they weren't even good for that.
He won because of white people. He won because white people are inherently racist, and their racism trumped their fucking patriotism and facts.
Never mind the fact that in 2020, his numbers went up with people of color in general, both black and Latino. His numbers went up. So, but we're talking facts.
They're in a bubble now. They attacked the fucking Capitol because they're fucking dumb, dude.
You think I came on your podcast to just listen to you talk at me?
Okay, well, tell me how you say he's smart. How he's evil, dude. That's why he got.
You want to push that he's evil? Like, I don't like it's.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree, Shane. These aren't good arguments. That is emotional bullshit, right? Like, the reality is, you teamed up with a group of racists who ended up, by the way, 2 weeks ago. Hold on. Just 2 weeks ago, they ran up on the Capitol with all their Blue Lives Matter. They killed one police officer. They beat the shit out of a few others, and they were looking to take hostages and potentially do it. They were screaming, "Hang Mike Pence!" Hold on. I'm not done, side. Like, let me have my show. At least.
See, that lets you know that I was winning right there, where he knows I have commandeered your show. I have taken over your show. You might as well change the sign on the corner to Unbothered by Thai Rivera. Unbothered by Thai Rivera, because I have won this bitch. A chicken will run around the yard after you cut its head off, but it's still fucking dead.
I've sat back and listened. I go at my pace, dog. So I don't have to go any faster.
You're also on my time. You know, so yeah,
I agree with you.
Bounce. If you got better shit to do, bounce, dog. Like, you're more than welcome to bounce. If you have better shit to do.
That's what you prefer, because I'm not gonna say it. Like, all you guys.
All I'm saying is you teamed up with that stormed the Capitol, and
no, that's not what I teamed up with. A lot of
that is. I mean, by supporting Trump twice. No. By supporting Trump twice.
No.
That's mad.
By supporting Trump twice, you did. You did that. You did that.
Kill people. So when you're telling me
they were what?
Q. That was a lot of Q people.
You teamed up with that, exactly. That's all the same team, dog. You might not think the same as them, but you're on the same team.
Well, you're on the same team as Antifa agitators. Like, if your Black Lives Matter, then you're on the same team as Antifa agitators.
That's your opinion. I don't agree with that.
See, we're all on the same team when we're Trump people, but it's not the same team suddenly when it's him and Antifa agitators. Not cute.
But fine.
Too. See,
I know that, dog. I know that's my opinion. I know that's my opinion.
I get it.
Hold up. Both of y'all, hold up. Ty. You're right. For a minute there, I was talking from emotion and not facts. Forget the facts of what I was saying.
I was talking from emotion, not facts. Forget the facts of what I was saying. Makes perfect sense.
I feel you. This is what you decide. You decided to pick a team, whatever your reasons are. You decided to do that. Okay, I'm not going to even go into that because it's obvious. It's obvious you picked a team because that's what you felt was the best thing for you to do.
I mean, that's what voting is. That's what voting is.
Right? Now, I didn't put words in your mouth, right?
No.
Okay. So, and I understand your time, but it kills me when people say your time as though it's not our time. It's not your time. It's our time. And dude, like saying Pedro's dumb. I didn't call you dumb or no names.
I haven't called you anything tonight.
I didn't call you no names. And you can't act like that with comedy wise, because I mean, I understand what you do, and you understand what I do as a comic too.
I have on a cocktail jacket, gentlemen. Like, I'm good. This is cashmere on my chest. I'm good.
Even as comics, I know what you do. You know what the fuck I do.
Yes, I do understand what you do as a comic.
Do you think that women who are pregnant, if they use a vibrator, do you think their kids come out stuttering?
And you know what the deal is. I get it. But the bottom line is you decided that you wanted to go with that team. Got it. Not going to put words in your mouth. None of that. Okay. And I know from watching you do sets, and I've spoke to you before, I knew your temperament. And you know my temperament. My temperament has been mad chill. I think I've been mad chill for me.
You've been the moderator. You've been moderating.
You have no idea. I don't know. You think why I do Red That Club? You have no idea. So the bottom line, you don't.
And you got into it backstage at San Manuel. I've seen your temper. I mean, like, I had to tell you.
I don't know why you think. Ain't no yogurt pumping through this heart at all.
Ain't no yogurt pumping through this heart at all. I don't even know what that means, you guys. I don't know what that means.
Number one. Number two, at the end of the day, I understand. You say this is what you chose. I get it. I said I get it. But like,
what's the point of having me on your podcast if you're just going to project onto me? Did you just need someone to project onto? Because that's what's happened, and that's what I got annoyed with, and that's why I said it was dumb. Because
I projected on you?
I was answering you. And then Pedro starts laughing in the middle of while I'm answering you. And that's when I was like, well, the dumb people do dumb things, because it's like, I'm trying to treat you guys seriously. I mean, like, you guys have a regular podcast. You guys do this a set time every week or whenever you guys do it, So you guys have.
Actually, we do it Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Exactly.
On YouTube and Facebook. Thank
you for making my point for me.
You see him try to get cute, and I was like, thank you for making my point for me. God don't like ugly, and he ain't too fond of cute neither.
Because that's exactly what I was saying. You guys take your guys' time to do this because this is your project. I'm here as an unpaid guest, taking time out of my night, not getting any kind of money for it. So the least you can do is pay me in respect. Like if you guys ask me a question, I'll answer it. I don't expect it to be a safe space, but when I'm answering a question, let me answer it. I wouldn't treat it, if I had either of you on my podcast, I have a podcast too. It's called Unbothered by Thai Rivera. You can see it on youtube.com/Thai Rivera. And the thing with that is, if you come on my podcast, I would treat either one of you with respect, even if I fully disagreed with everything you said. I don't laugh at people. I don't try to make people feel stupid. I don't try to put
Did he laugh? He laughed at what you said.
First of all, we comics, and you should be used to being laughed at or laughed with.
See, I always hate when people do that. I've had people do that when they're not paying me. There was one promoter in particular that was like trying to not pay us. And when I got upset about it, he was like, you're supposed to be a comedian. You're supposed to make this funny. You're supposed to see the joke. And then I'm like, the joke in you not paying me? Like, that's one thing I've always hated. And I don't know any real comic that feels that way. And if Shang feels like by me saying this, I'm saying he's not a real comic, if the shoe fits, buy it in every color.
Yeah, that's
and honestly, if I find what you say funny, then I'm gonna laugh. You know, it's an response. So,
but like, I was in the middle of answering something, so I don't.
That doesn't mean I didn't find it funny.
You can check back on the playback. You'll notice that it wasn't anything humorous I was saying. Like, you know, to me, when
not to you, but to me it was.
Yeah, you can't tell somebody.
That's the way comedy goes. Like.
See, and Shane kept saying that I told Pedro that he wasn't a comedian out of nowhere. This is why I told Pedro he wasn't a comedian. When you're trying to tell me how comedy works and I've never heard of you and nobody's ever heard of you, that's not something I'm going to do with you. Yeah, we're talking politics, whatever. Fine. Maybe you're the smarter guy on that. Not from what you've said so far, but maybe we could say that. When it comes to stand-up, no. No to Pedro, no to Shang. Shang's been doing it longer. He's not better. So I'm not deferring to either of these two ass fucks when it comes to listening to how comedy works. So that's when I go in on this, and you're going to see his little feelings get devastated.
What you said to me was laughable.
You know what, Pedro? I never heard of you as a comic, to tell you the truth. So
you don't have to, dog.
Yeah, well, if you're actually in the industry, I should know who you are. On some level, if you're a good comic, I would know who you were.
I don't think so. I disagree with that, bro. There's so many good comics across the country that you don't have to know. Even in LA. LA is a big and a small town.
LA, I was in LA for 14 years. I know everything.
I still am.
Yeah.
21 years.
21 years and still nobody's heard of you. Come on now. You're really trying to throw out this resume? You're really trying to go down with this ship? All right.
You must not be doing well at it.
Nope, I'm not at all, dog. I am not at all. I'm scaling.
Stand-up is what I do.
But you see where this is going though? Like okay, so I laughed at something you said earlier, but now you're in attack mode, right? Like you're not even dealing with this in a real way anymore. No. Now you've gone to career stuff and you don't know me, admittedly, right? And I've said, like, I've seen you once or twice on stage.
You've seen me once or twice on stage. I've never seen you. You're not a comedian. You're an audience member. You're a fan at best.
Right? And I've said, you from what I saw, you were a bold comic. So I acknowledge you. I've seen you. I don't need you to see me, dog. Like, I've done my thing. Like, I feature for Shang a lot. Like, for like 16 years, Shang has been taking me on the road. So, like, sorry if you weren't on those gigs with us. Well, where we've been from New York to San Diego and everywhere in between. No, that's fine. Like, but maybe ask around. Maybe ask around. Just ask around.
And by the way, Ty, I understand it's your time, and I understand what you're saying. You're not being paid for it. I hear you. So before we wrap it up, because we went way over, because it went left. The topics I was going to talk to you about was Fauci. The fact that this person felt relieved to be in an administration where he can actually express the truth. So that means he felt oppressed.
At this point, I'll be honest with you. I don't even care what we're talking about. I am just happy that I have sunk his battleship. So if you notice, The rest of this is just victory lap. I might not even talk to you guys anymore for the rest of this and just let you guys watch, because I can't tell you guys how much I love my handiwork when somebody's finally gotten on my nerves and I decide, okay, we just go to hurt your feelings mode. That's all I want to do. I want to take your balls away and I want to throw them in my fucking purse. That's right. I'm a huge fucking faggot and I carry a purse. So I'm snatching your fucking balls. I'm throwing them in my purse, and maybe your boyfriend Shane can go find them, but I got them.
To be in an administration where he was forced or pressured to not tell the truth. Dr. Fauci.
Not allowed to at all.
Not allowed to at all. Do you think that is factual? Because he said it today in the press conference.
With Dr. Fauci, I don't really know it's factual, because like the thing was, he admits to having given us a lower number lower percentages that we actually needed to reach herd immunity before. And that, he said, was because he didn't want Americans to feel discouraged. And the thing is, I feel like a doctor that's in that position that's supposed to be guiding the country, because like when it comes to the coronavirus specifically, Dr. Fauci is who we're all looking to. Dr. Fauci is the gold standard. Dr. Fauci is who everybody asks all the questions to. So when he's admitted to giving us misinformation before, then I don't really know that I can trust his information now. And if you look at the way Dr. Fauci handled the AIDS crisis, which was also something Dr. Fauci was in charge of, like with that, it seemed like a lot of panic. And what we know now about AIDS and HIV is obviously a lot different than what we were getting then. And I know that we're dealing with things that are brand new, like when it comes to coronavirus, and also back then when it came to AIDS. But in some cases, I feel like Dr. Fauci kind of panics in some cases, and then in other areas, he'll be overly, he'll not necessarily
to relax,
come right out and say what we need to hear, you know? And I feel like hard truths are what we need, no matter who the president is. And Dr. Fauci should have just gone rogue, as far as I'm concerned, if he was really that concerned and it was as dire as they were saying.
I mean, he did. I think by telling the truth in general, he did. That was going rogue in a Trump administration. Like, that's when he got cut off. Just trying to say truthful things, and you know, that's been an adage throughout this administration. The one term is like,
anybody that says something truthful, yeah, he
is anti.
Right,
Trump.
he was tweeting at him. Now this is now that Biden is president, and you see that the Democrats are trying to put something forward to try to. I'm not saying both of them are full of shit to a point, but do you think that the Democrats, with this win, do you think that they're showing with the new president, they're at least trying to correct the ship?
I think we're on day one, and I really hope that they do. Like, that's one thing people don't understand about me, because that's just to explain to you guys kind of why I got upset earlier, is I hate when people project onto me what they think every Trump supporter is supposed to be, and this is what you must be. There are certain things that you have to overlook if you're going to be on either side. Like, you know, if you're a Democrat or a Republican, I am neither. I'm technically registered as a Republican because that's the way that I was voting, but like, I'm neither, like, in my thinking. I always want what's best for the country, and I thought Hillary was terrible for the country. I think what happened with Biden, like, you know, when it came to Hunter Biden and some of the dealings in China and that kind of stuff, I think that should have been explored the same way that they wanted to explore things with Trump and Russia. So when I see people willing to be blind on one side, but then notice everything on the other side, no matter what it is, I'm always going to be like, well, I think we need to see everything on both sides is what needs to happen. I was never upset about people like looking into Trump's past and trying to figure out things with, like, you know, the taxes or any of the things that people had questions about. I felt like, yeah, figure that out. Ask those questions. Make sure you press that. But I thought that people should have done the same on the Democrat side too, which when it came to Hillary's emails, people wanted to act like that was some kind of conspiracy. And really,
it was disproven over and over again.
It was not disproven. Actually, that you can find on different fact check sites. She deleted something like 30,000 emails in 5 days, and it was 4 weeks after the subpoena was served to her. So there was a little bit of explaining that needed to happen there. And so I don't know what he means by it was disproven. Eventually, what they decided was that no court would take it on. So, 31,830 private emails. And she also was using her private server and her private email to correspond about things that were labeled as top secret, and had they gotten into the wrong hands, it could have turned into a problem. It doesn't appear that anything got compromised, but that's what it was. And the reason I gave you for them not pressing charges or moving forward or suggesting charges was that's the reason James Comey gave. So that is what it is, and it's not something that really anybody with any intelligence should argue, because it hasn't been disproven. That technically was proven. It's just, since it wasn't considered to be nefarious, but they don't know, because they don't know what she deleted exactly. When it got deleted, and it, like, the way the whole thing was done does come off as shady. If you want, you can check it at factcheck.org. Go to A Guide to Clinton's Emails, or just Google A Guide to Clinton's Emails, and then you'll get the factcheck.org link coming up, and then you can see for yourself what that was all about. But it does come off as very shady. So saying that's disproven, no intelligent person would say that. So I stand by my previous statements.
That wasn't disproven. There were actually over 20,000 emails that were marked.
And again, it was disproven.
He's so dumb. He keeps saying it's been disproven, and he doesn't even know. It's so. Ugh.
Ty, no bullshit.
That was not disproven. That was not.
Okay, so why is she in jail? Why didn't they lock her up as these fucking idiots? And I consider them idiots, because anytime he said lock them up, it didn't matter who it was. He wanted people that were born in America to be sent back to their own country. Ready? America. They're from here, from Indiana. But because they were people of color, and all these people chanted, lock them up. What are you talking about? Hillary would have got
two different things there. And
what I'm saying is, why didn't they lock her up? If it was so corrupt and what she did wrong, she didn't get locked up.
They don't lock almost any politician up. Who have they locked up? They're not going to lock up Trump.
I agree with you there, because my attitude is white folks let white folks get away with murder all the fucking time.
Well, that's the thing.
You see the way I've taken the air out of the room? This is what happens when you're good at what you do. They should have just been nice to me to begin with. They would have gotten what they wanted, and they wouldn't have looked like assholes. See, if you guys watch right now, again, this is all victory lap. Look at the way I have broken both of them down. Their audience and fans can say what they want and try to save face for them, but I've really done my work here. I swear, I try not to be impressed with me. And technically, I'm not proud of this appearance, because I think I could have kept my composure better. But at the same time, good girl.
And that's why I think it's pointless for people to be arguing with each other when we all should be getting together, no matter what your side is, and looking to them and being like, yeah, why are you fucking up? Why are you fucking up, Pelosi? Why are you fucking up, McConnell? Why are you fucking up, Ted Cruz? Like, all of them, just across the board. Why are you guys fucking up?
Well, that's a false equivalency, because
that's a false equivalency. Saying that we should make sure we hold everybody accountable is a false equivalency. I don't think somebody knows what a false equivalency is.
Major fucking up, and then I fucked up a little bit. And
fucking up. And
no, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's a difference between if I kick you in the knee and I stab you in the chest with a spoon. There's a difference. One is worse.
You're still going to have a fucked up knee, so you're all right with having a fucked up knee?
Okay, so it's a false equivalency. Why the fuck are you saying that? Come on, bro.
No, you're all right with having a fucked up knee.
It's not. One's worse. One's worse. That's it.
But to me, the whole thing needs to be fixed. I look at it more like diet is the way I look at it. Have you guys ever been on a strict diet?
Yes.
I've been plant-based for a year.
Okay, if you're on a strict diet, you know that those little things will mess you up. It's like, if you want everything to run properly, then you do have to pay attention to the little things and the big things. You do. So for me, it's like when people just want to look at certain things and be like, well, this person's okay, this is all right. It's like, no, where's everybody fucking up? And let's fix the system all together.
So, but you think the people that fuck up more, it's okay?
I just don't understand how MAGA
people fucking up at all is not what's supposed to be happening. Like, you know, like it's just not. Like Pelosi was standing in the way of the of us getting the stimulus passed at a point, and that
come on, man.
He's not even smart enough to know that it was both Pelosi and McConnell, just at different points. They fight like children. That's one of the reasons that I don't like politicians in general. That's why I say we should hold everybody accountable. So when he's acting like, oh, come on, man, it's like, are you really this dumb? I mean, come on. Let's do better. Let's read a little bit, fellas. I think they both went to college. 9th grade here. 9th grade.
Are you telling me that
they were at an impasse?
Mitch McConnell too.
Hold on. They were at an impasse.
This part, Shang, is I'm willing to admit that, you know, Republicans are fucking up, but I don't have a side. You do. See, and that's to me what's the unproductive part is when people have a side and they're like, okay, I can forgive you because you're on my side. With me, I say forgive nobody. Like if we're really gonna do it, forgive nobody. And then when people are like, okay, I'll be blind.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
All of this.
So forgive nobody means what then?
What's that?
Forgive nobody means what?
It means hold everybody accountable. That's what it means, Pedro. Forgive nobody. What does that mean? It means hold everybody accountable, like I just said. Right. Princeton over here can't get it. Princeton has trouble wrapping his brain around the concept of holding everybody accountable.
When it comes to Pelosi fucking up, call that out. When it comes to McConnell fucking up, call that out. They called them all out. The way people like to cancel people on the internet, like that's who needs to be getting canceled because they'll actually have a consequence. If you cancel Kevin Hart for saying fag in 2009, how does that help us as a society? Where if you put
but that's different than inciting a riot.
No,
see, how do we end up talking about the riot now? How did that become where we're at? I'm talking about holding people accountable in general and across the board. We're not talking about the riot right now, but you have to say, oh, that's right. You have to take it all the way back to the riot because I'm talking sense and you're going to end up letting down your audience. That's why I don't train my audience to expect anything from me but change. Everything can change at any given moment. Expect the unexpected, botherinas, because one day I can feel this and tomorrow I don't feel it no more, and you can still feel it, and I'll respect that, but you got to respect that I have moved on, I have changed, I have evolved. So it is what it is, and sometimes you guys can disagree with. I don't care. I'm not expecting anybody to fit a narrative all the time. This is where you fuck up. You promise your people that you're unbendable, and then you have to make yourself look stupid. This is the Donald Trump thinking. I love Donald Trump. I think he's fun. I do think he's fun. But at the same time, certain times, he would be like so stuck on these particular ideas and he wouldn't want to change just because he wouldn't want to actually admit that maybe he might have been wrong or his thinking might have been flawed. And that's why I always say the people that hate Donald Trump the most are the people that argue like him. The people that actually conduct themselves like him. They're the ones that hate him the most. And that's the reason I'm convinced that they hate him the most is because he reminds them of that part of themselves. I stand by that.
But also, if you listen to your wording and the inciting of the riot, if you actually pay attention to the speech that Donald Trump gave, the speech itself, if you pay attention to that, he said we're going to peacefully and patriotically.
No, he didn't say that.
Shane just said he didn't say that.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. Today we will see whether Republicans stand strong for integrity of our elections, but whether or not they stand strong for our country. Our country.
He actually said it twice, and I know this because I used it for the beginning of They Took Over the Capitol episode of my daily. And he said it twice. The first time I didn't like that it wasn't clean enough. It wasn't just the straight through thing, but he did say it twice. And technically the second time he said it was 15 minutes and 32 seconds in, I believe it was. And I remember that because, like I said, I had to cut the clip. So I had to listen to it a couple of times to actually get that. And the fact that Shang doesn't even know that, but then later on he claims that he knows, you know, he listened to the whole speech of Donald Trump saying something else. It's like, you're not even a credible witness anymore. Like you've said, there's a Hillary thing you were wrong at. There's now the Donald Trump thing you're wrong at. Pedro is giving misinformation by saying he said it at the end of the speech when it wasn't at the end of the speech. You guys just aren't doing your jobs. Like you claim to be facts, but you're not facts.
Yeah, no, he did. Shang, stop. Hold on. Time out. Shang, he did say that in one line. At the end, after saying, fight like hell. If you don't fight, you're going to be weak. You're never going to get back this country without being, if you're weak. So like he said way more times the concept of fight than he did about being the peaceful protest thing. I'll admit he said it one time in that whole speech. And then you combine that with Mo Brooks and his son and Rudy Giuliani. They all called for violence that day. Josh Hawley, Ted Cruz, a fellow alumni of mine, like, you motherfuckers they were inciting a riot the whole time. Sometimes you don't have to yell fire in the theater to get everybody to run. But if motherfuckers get trampled and you got everybody to jump up and run, I do believe that you are responsible to a degree for that trampling, for sure. And those people on film, those people are saying things like, we're here because the president told us to be here. We were invited by the president. So a certain portion of the crowd, a good number, zip ties and all, were there in their mind at behest of the president. And from sitting on the outside, it looks like he did tell them to do that. So like
some of them were provocateurs and agitators as well. Steve, this is
Antifa and BLM.
Yeah, this is
for sure.
Black Lives Matter are asking for you.
No, BLM and Antifa dressed up as MAGA and went in there and provocateured the fuck out of the Capitol.
Nah, man. So
talking to Shang is like talking to somebody's grandfather that doesn't know what happened. Like, yeah, the majority certainly were like the fringe of the Trump supporters. And like, that's crazy. And that's one of the things I wanted to talk about is there definitely is a difference between like the Q people and then like the hardcore, what they consider, like when people say things like Trumpelos or Trumpettes or whatever like that, it's like there definitely are the people that have drank the Kool-Aid. I'm not one of them, and a lot of the people that I know aren't that part of the crowd. So like I wanted to talk a little bit about that. But were there some BLM people? Yes, we know that. If you've been paying attention, there were. Just like I've always been honest about the fact that when they're having actual BLM peaceful protest, the Antifa provocateurs will show up and mess that up too. And it's one of the reasons that I don't like Antifa is because I feel like they obscure the message that BLM is trying to get through. And I think that's very detrimental to what BLM is trying to accomplish. So that's one of the reasons I don't like Antifa. I also don't like it. I don't like Antifa altogether because they just mess it up for both sides. So they really do. So that's what I was talking about. But I wasn't trying to scapegoat. I wasn't trying to say that the majority weren't Trump supporters or the QAnon people, which kind of is bold. But if you've been reading stuff, you know, lately QAnon has switched over to thinking Biden is their president, you know, as far as their savior or whatever they think. The QAnon people are weird, and I don't stand with those people. They're their own thing. I have a few friends that have gone that way, and I try to distance a little bit. I try to be nice, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, you're crazy.
What about him denouncing white supremacy? Somebody asked that. Do you think that did he denounce white supremacy?
Yeah, no, you can find on like on YouTube. I'll send it to you guys. I don't care. I'll find it for you. But you can find where he did it several times, and then he at a point he just said, "I'm not going to keep doing that over and over and over." But like he's several times out in so many words.
I totally disavow the Ku Klux Klan. I totally disavow David Duke. Ultimately, he got to the Ku Klux Klan, which obviously I'm going to disavow. And you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. I spoke out forcefully against hatred, bigotry, and violence, and strongly condemned the neo-Nazis, the white supremacists, and the KKK. In one voice, our nation must condemn racism, bigotry, and white supremacy.
And like, I think when he brought up Proud Boys, that was meant to actually make people look into the Proud Boys, because well, technically Joe Biden was the one that brought up Proud Boys. And
Shang's mind is blown. He's so used to being in his own thought bubble, as he puts it, because he always talks about thought bubble, but he doesn't realize he's the one that's in a thought bubble. Like I said, I really have no problem accepting all of what they're saying, but for some reason, like, my shit keeps blowing their minds. It's like they've never thought of anything outside of their own. That's why sometimes when people act like drinking the Kool-Aid, it's like there's more than one flavor of Kool-Aid. There's red and there's blue.
The reason that he chose to capitalize on Proud Boys specifically was because if people went ahead and looked into Proud Boys as they did, they would notice that that's not only not a white supremacist group. There are actually different people of different races that are part of the Proud Boys. Proud Boys.
The KKK has a history of using black people as propaganda as well. So.
Yeah, you mean the same KKK that Robert Byrd was from, that Hillary considers one of her mentors? That same KKK?
Got his ass.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm a Bernie guy, dog. I was not a Hillary fan. So.
I wasn't a Hillary fan.
Bernie didn't do what he needed to do to get us where he needed to be, so he could have been president. If Bernie had that killer instinct, maybe Bernie would have had an actual shot, and maybe I would have voted.
Yeah, but your killer instinct literally leads to people like that phrase. Killed. It literally leads to a mob going up there, like, whether you mean it or not.
The phrase killer instinct is dangerous now? Is that what we're saying? Are we really doing this right now? The phrase killer instinct that we've all used for a long time now means literally killing people. That's what we're saying?
Understand your team, your fellow Trumpty Dumptians, like the people who voted for him.
Dum da dum dum dum.
And that's what we do. We team up when we vote. Like we're choosing a side. They give us 2-3 sides but really it's two mains, right? Do you want chicken or steak? You want fish or fucking, pheasant, right? Mm-hmm. Those are your choices, okay? You're at your friend's wedding and you don't have no fucking thing about it.
And
okay?
And if you down to say that he's not racist, so Trump's not racist.
Here's the deal. Let me be completely clear about this. This country has a history of racism. So the older you get, the deeper you get into people that have had to deal with actual levels of racism. When it comes to white people in that certain group, in those ages, yes, all of them are racist. It's just how much they've evolved. All of them started off racist. Like, I'm not going to say all of them are still racist. Some of them have truly gotten away from that thinking. But when it comes to Trump and Biden, both of them, yes, both of them are a bit racist. It's just what it is. It's probably going to be in them forever. They were in that system for a long time. They've been white men of privilege for their entire lives. Both of them. So I don't know why that's such a hard thing for you to accept, or why you think I don't get that. Maybe instead of answering for me, you should genuinely ask me and let me talk. Maybe that's the way. And I admit, at this point, they've gotten to where they're letting me talk. But I'm already in such a defensive posture that I don't want to give them anything. I just don't. At this point, I can admit I've become unproductive in the conversation, and I should have hung up long before this. But I'm enjoying watching them just have to deal with the actual tidal wave that is Thai Rivera. That's what I'm enjoying. The tsunami that is Thai Rivera. Because now they know what every guy I've ever dated has had to deal with.
You make a choice, you're making a choice. Like, you're choosing a team. And then whatever you think, whatever, if somebody is like, well, all the chicken eaters in the house, like, you're just going to be one of the chicken eaters if you chose chicken, whether...
Well, you asked me if you denounced racism, and I answered that question. And I told you guys.
I didn't ask you that.
I asked you that. I asked you if he denounced. I asked you if he denounced racism. He's a man. He's been proven a racist. Stop it. Stop it. Stop, Ty.
Then don't ask the question.
All right, but you know what?
But he's asking you your opinion about
it. I gave you the answer. Like you.
Okay. All right. So you think he denounced racism? Okay. Okay. So because he said, and when he reads the teleprompter, you know he means all of that shit. Listen, I get what you're saying, but the bottom line is
he's not reading a teleprompter.
Oh my goodness, yo!
Who's not reading a teleprompter? What?
Fuck that. He was racist. He was racist back in New York. Everybody in New York knew he was racist. The Central Park 5 shit, when he knew they were innocent, he still did the shit. He has proven himself consistently. If you're Mexican, you can't be a judge.
Was Trump in charge of the 1994 crime bill?
Okay, check this out. I'm not saying Biden is the best.
You just said he was just a fuddy-duddy old man.
See, I'm saying he's better than fucking Trump.
Well, at least
and Trump got his ass kicked.
Further along than most.
Okay, wow. Okay, what I'm saying to you is
to admit that Biden isn't perfect because people try to act
absolutely. I know Biden is not perfect, but guess what?
Obama was not perfect. I think Jimmy Carter was the most righteous president ever, but he was definitely not perfect. You know what I'm saying?
Nobody's perfect.
He obviously wasn't perfect.
But nobody's.
Barack Obama was not perfect. There's no perfection in any aspect of life.
Now I got everybody to admit that nobody is perfect. See, this is. I should have been a teacher.
Yeah, nobody's going to be perfect. I don't expect anybody to be perfect, but I expect people to try harder than they're trying.
Trump proved himself time and time again when he talked about Mexicans, when he talked about Mexican Americans, when he said the judge, well, he can't do that because he's Mexican. He's Mexican. You don't have to say something bad, like you don't have to word for word to know, oh, that was some racist shit you just said.
No, that wasn't.
He couldn't be a judge because he's Mexican.
No,
he's of Mexican descent.
He didn't see, that's overgeneralizing. He
can't do it. He's a Mexican. He didn't
say he couldn't be a judge
couldn't judge him.
Mexican. What he said was he had too much emotion about the immigration thing, which that's completely possible. Like, look at the way I'm trying to talk to you guys. And you guys are going to be, would you guys be impartial if you guys had to be in a situation where you had to judge somebody based on something to do with Trump? Because I don't think you guys would, because it's clear you guys have a lot of emotions and a lot of things that are already
not even emotion. It's you know what? My thing is, you know what? It's not an emotional thing. If somebody tried to punch me in the face and I knock them the fuck out.
Am I missing some? Never mind.
That's not about my emotions. It's about, don't ever try to punch me in the face. I'm really not that motherfucker.
It's not about emotion. It's about, don't ever try to punch me in my motherfucking face. This isn't about emotion. This is about don't ever try to touch me in my motherfucking face. Don't ever try to punch me in my motherfucking face.
That's number one. Number two, it's not about emotions.
Just to be clear, you are definitely in your emotions right now, Shang.
It's about fact. He absolutely said racist shit towards people that were Mexican. Flat out.
How is it you have more emotions than I do about that?
It's not an emotion. If I talk fast, it don't mean I'm not in my emotions. I'm not doing this like, oh my God, I'm not doing that. I'm saying, I know you're Mexican. I know you're Mexican.
You're trying to tell me that's like me trying to tell you what's racist towards black people.
You can't tell me what's racist towards black people.
What's that?
When it's obvious, yes, you can.
We should all on this show understand what racism is and feels like.
How do you not know that was racist as fuck? What he said?
Specific or Mexican specific.
Like when it came to the Mexican statement, a lot of people didn't pay attention to what happened before and after, and what exactly.
I watched the whole interview. What the fuck are you talking about? I watched the whole interview.
Now Shang's watching whole interviews. Earlier, he didn't even know what Donald Trump had said, but now he's watching whole interviews, start to finish. He doesn't know about Hillary's emails, but he's watching whole interviews. He doesn't know about Donald Trump and what he said the day that the riot started, but he's watching whole interviews. All right, Shang, I'll bite.
He did. You're you're cherry picking some shit. I heard him say it. I've heard him say racist shit and violent shit. Hey, knock him out. I watched the whole thing.
There were private files that you're the only one that had access to. I didn't watch the whole thing.
Fucking top, because check this out. Number one, that is a fact.
See, that's where he stopped me from talking. If you notice, once we got to Mexicans, because he knows I was going to take that motherfucker over. Because the truth is, some of the stuff Trump said, yes, that is what fucking happens. There were people in the neighborhood that I specifically lived in when I was in my teen years. My grandma lived in that neighborhood forever. They tore half of it down now. But like literally, Mexicans would come here. They would come to that neighborhood specifically. Like that's the kind of like what our neighborhood attracted or what it was known for. And they would come here and they would sell drugs and they would kill people and they would go back. And there was one time in particular, and this was all the time. It was like all the time. The neighborhood called the Mipas, and where I live specifically was on the corner of 16th Street and Pima. And anybody that knows that area knows that that's what happened in that area, like all the time. A lot of people were hooked on heroin. It's the reason I never tried heroin, because I always saw people getting hooked on heroin and ended up the worst way. They get aged so fast on heroin. But that's what that neighborhood was. It was drugs. It was coyotes. It was fucking people getting killed, like all the time. Like you just, like people notice now that I don't flinch when there's gunshots. I've been shot when I was younger in a different neighborhood. West Side, but on the West Side. I'm not saying I'm West Side. I'm saying I got shot on the West Side. And yeah, but still, I don't flinch because I got so used to gunshots all the time. And so yes, for the most part, good people. But when Trump said the very particular statement that he said, which was very particular, the statement that he said was very particular, and the Mexican government has been known for doing that. They unload their worst on the United States, and that was what he was talking about. And then he's also done interviews where he said that in general, it's good people. Like he said that for sure, but like you're not going to convince Shang of this, and you can find that footage too. But with these people, when he's talking about truth bubble, it's like you can't talk to me about people being in their truth bubble while you're in a truth bubble. Like, yes, I understand how when the media takes a certain bit, and when he said cherry picks, that was cherry picked. Like when the media cherry picks just a certain part, yeah, but at the same time, no. And I'm not listening to you when it comes to Mexicans, because there's a reason that the percentage of Latinos voted for him. It was over 30%, like both times. And like I said, it went up this time. So when you're telling me that this is what it is, no. And that's why he doesn't want to let me go, because he knows I'm Mexican, and this is where I really shine.
Okay, number two, I understand there's a certain point where if you're in a bubble and you're in a bubble, or you're in a truth bubble, and the only thing you see is your truth instead of the facts, I get it. There's no way I'm going to get through that fucking bubble. But you guess what? The American public decided, fuck that dude. Period. But fuck that dude by 7 million people. Fuck that dude. Period. And he's one of the worst presidents, according to fucking everybody that votes, pertaining to not only politicians that were on his side that he threw under the bus. So this is not my opinion or my feelings. I'm not talking about my fucking feelings. This is a fact.
You're speaking only in fact when it's not true.
This is a fact.
That's why you can't let me talk. Because like
we didn't let you talk. Get the fuck. I let you talk.
No,
and Pedro let you talk.
Certain parts you won't stop talking. Like right now when you talked about Mexicans, the way you steamrolled through that was just you telling me what it is you think. It wasn't about us talking back and forth. I tried to interrupt you and you kept talking, and I'm like, okay, I'll let you talk. Okay. But like the thing is, and then I started talking, and then you said I was going to cherry pick. No, what I was going to do is actually make the point. So, you know, I get it. And you guys, it's your show. You guys can do what you want with it. But just, you know.
See, when you do that's bitch shit. When you say, oh, it's your show, or then you bring up some shit about career and all of that. Ain't nobody bring no shit about career. And if anybody could bring some shit about career, I can.
See, that's him now trying to deflect. Now he wants to talk about career. And if anybody could bring up shit about career, I would talk about my BET credits that nobody cares about. I would talk about when I used to be on Def Jam, which nobody knows what Def Jam is anymore, but I was on it. So when it comes to career, I could really talk about some shit. No, Shang. Really, you could talk about how you've been able to keep working on so little talent. That's something I would listen to a seminar on, for real. Because I will give it to him. He has worked. He has worked. But he has worked. So I'm not going to pretend Shang doesn't work. He works way more than he should.
So don't go there. And I could go there constantly with a bunch of motherfuckers, but I haven't done that.
That was
this way. It don't mean I'm like, oh, I'm in my feelings What Ty offended me? None of that. I talk fast.
No.
I talk like this, and I talk and I move my hands. It don't mean that I'm trying to fight nobody if I do like this.
Shang, don't let the career thing get at you. That was directed specifically at me. No, that's specific at me because no, hold on.
That's right, Shang. Tell me all about how I hurt your boyfriend's feelings and how it happened right in front of your face. You didn't defend your mans. Whose mans is this?
Because Ty has never. No, hold on. Because Ty has never heard of me. I must not be good, I believe, is as close to a paraphrase as I can get. So that was directed specifically at me.
No, because nobody's ever heard of you. That's how I know you're not good. Because nobody, like in the week since I did your podcast, not a single person was like, you got into it with Black Pedro. Technically, nobody's even been like, you got into it with Shang. The people that do know mention Shang, but like this has not been a thing, fellas. Neither of you are an issue. You're both non-issues. I made you guys hot for a minute, and you guys couldn't take the heat.
All good. You know, I think as comedians, we all live in a confident space or should. So your knowledge of me, that you didn't see the sunrise in Japan yesterday, but that shit did. You know what I'm saying? And I've gotten plenty of checks over the years, and I'm doing.
This is more a deflection because we were talking about Trump and Mexicans, and then
no. Because Shane brought up a real thing. Listen.
I brought it back up because that was bitch shit you did.
My name,
but on your show and then not letting me speak is bitch shit.
Okay, like, but I did let you.
Who hasn't let you speak? I've sat back quiet for a minute.
Shane here with that, yo.
Shane sat back. Shane sat back.
Trying to steamroll it. So, like, you know, for me, it's like when you guys like Dennis conveniently, let's go back to the career thing. Like, you know,
conveniently, you the one that brought the shit up. Nobody brought up career, but you.
Right now, you just brought it up.
It's within the same space of the fucking conversation.
So Ty, it's called a callback.
We're done with that.
In field is called a callback, and it's like where you reference something from earlier and then you bring it back.
Oh, I'm familiar with callbacks.
Are you really? Okay, cool. Well, keep writing, young man. Keep writing, young man.
Okay, see, you know what?
Yeah, I'm 15 years old.
You said I understand that. Ty, nobody was bringing up that shit. You brought it up. I'm allowed to bring it up within the same. I'm allowed to bring it up within the same space of the fucking conversation since you've been on the show. You're the one that did that.
We had moved on to Trump and Mexicans. That's what we were talking about. Was that? Were we not? Did I miss out?
Yes. So just because you're Mexican doesn't mean you're gonna have the only perspective on when Mexicans are racist against. You know, when they experience racism.
Better idea of how Latinos in general felt about that. I think that's something that maybe could have been listened
I mean, you're talking to a dude named Pedro Delfino Hernandez. So like, I could get on Latino shit too all day. Like, it's really easy, bro. Like,
didn't he tell us earlier he's a black man, that they're both black men? Suddenly now we're pulling a Latino card. Okay, Pedro. What is that? Never mind. Let me get it together.
What you can get on, it's not about like actually.
Whatever I say it's about is what it's about. Whatever I say it's about is what it's about for me. Okay, so that's it. We all speak in perspective here. You ain't speaking any more. You're not speaking any more truth than anybody else on this show.
You're right.
I guarantee that.
Your name's Pedro.
Say that again.
You speak for Latinos because your name's Pedro.
No, I am Latino because of the lineage of my father and my grandfather. I'm sorry, actually on my mother's side. So like, I'm definitely
on your mother's side is Latino. So you speak for Latinos.
No, I didn't say that. I'm just saying
you're living the Latino.
That's not what I'm saying, dog.
I'm full Mexican.
Okay,
I'm Mexican.
I'm full real ass dude. That's what I am. Yeah, I'm full ass real ass dude. I have a lot of shit going on. I'm black. I'm Pedro. We Trini. We make roti. I got Indian in my family. I got Chinese in my family. I got Austrian in my family. I got a whole bunch of shit, dog, and I can recognize all of it. So full Mexican ain't a real thing, homie.
Yeah,
you speak Spanish because Europeans came and fucked your indigenous ancestors, homie. And maybe you don't speak Spanish or not. I'm telling you, ain't no full.
I am indigenous. That's something you're not gonna like tell me about. Like
you just told me about my shit, so I'm gonna tell you about yours.
About your shit. You said your grandfather on your whatever
mother side, my maternal grandfather. It's
so
not whatever.
That makes you Latino. That's interesting. That now you're
partly, yeah.
All right.
And then my father's side makes me black. You can be both.
You're not playing it partly. You're trying to act like that's your experience. You're Latino. Okay.
Well, I didn't know. No. Skirt. I'm from the east side of Detroit, dog. Like I'm a black man, but you can be both. You can be black and Latino. So like that's the space I live in. So
are you living in that space really? Are you living in the Latino space?
What is Latino? I'm more Malcolm X than Latinx, but yeah, motherfucker, I got my space. I have my space.
Latinx tells me you're not Latino.
Okay. Only 3% of the Latinos that know that exist use Latinx. Actually, a lot of Latinos don't even know it exists. That's a fact. So, I don't know. I get, like, he later says he's joking about that, but it lets you know how he's been a feature for 16 years. Bad writing. Bad writer.
Okay,
it's a joke, motherfucker. I didn't say I was. I said I'm part. I said I'm part.
Listen, I understand you.
Like I said, I'm black.
Okay, listen. Hey.
Latino don't mean you have to speak Spanish. I'm from my family on my mother's side is from an island that was conquered by the Spanish first, then ruled by the British. Okay. It's a lot of influence, dog. You know what I'm saying? But you're not complex like that.
I'll defer to you when it comes to being Latino.
You should. I know more.
You know what? Listen. I know that. Listen, I know. I
represent better than you do.
I know you think we were initially the spark was.
Have you taken notes at all, Ty? Have you written down anything I said? Because I know so much more than you.
15-year feature. I wouldn't take notes from a 15-year feature.
You shouldn't.
That was the laugh of a defeated man, ladies and gentlemen. I fucked enough of them to know.
But you should take it from a realer Latino than you, and a realer black man than you, and a realer person of color than you, and a realer man than you.
I would never claim to be black
and a realer mind than you, and just a realer personality, a realer spirit than you are. Bro, I'm a realer.
Girl, she's every woman. A realer man, a realer spirit, a realer personality, a realer black man. I'm every woman. See, this is why I don't sing, but she is every woman right now, sipping her wine, got her man Shang ready to have her back, bitch. They're gonna cut me.
I'm glad I heard your confidence enough that you feel like you have to make up for it now. But you guys, it was good being on your show. I appreciate
Hey. It went a little longer than anticipated.
Because I'm an exciting guest to have. And at the end of the day,
it was definitely exciting. But listen, man, I wasn't saying it I really, if I think it's some bitch shit, I'm going to tell you it's some bitch shit. I don't know why people think I wouldn't say that shit.
And what I thought was bitch shit too. So
exactly. You thought it was bitch shit. I thought it was bitch shit. But guess what? During the conversation pertaining to it, you did bring up the other shit that had nothing to do with nothing.
No, if you look back at
you just said I wouldn't say that to a featured. We ain't talk about that, bro.
If you guys remember, he brought up as a comedian, and that's when I was like, you're not a comedian. So, no, you brought it up. I just was better at actually doing what you were trying to kind of get at. So, you try to be condescending with me, I'll be outright condescending with you, and nobody's going to argue it because, yeah, that part, lock.
You brought that up again, and then just right now he asked.
You're the one that brought it up initially.
So what are we talking about? I mean, I'm Latino. That's what it is. I'm full Mexican. He just said full Mexican isn't a thing. Okay, cool. So then he brings up indigenous. I'm like, I'm indigenous. Look at me. I am indigenous. Whether people like it or not, whether people want to acknowledge it or not.
Your language isn't.
The definition for indigenous has nothing to do with your language. It means that you come from a particular area. You're of that land. That's what indigenous is. My dad's Mexican. My mom's Mexican. My mom's family is from Arizona. Arizona became a state in 1912. My mom's family had already been there well before that. We're from that land. That's what it is. We're indigenous. We didn't come on the Mayflower. Nobody brought us on ships. We're indigenous. That's what, it doesn't have anything to do with the language you speak right now. Nobody would be indigenous if that's the way it worked. You mean you speak English, so you're not indigenous? It's the dumbest thing in the world. Dumb. I keep telling you guys, dumb. How did I end up mental midgets?
So when I talk about those two
your
things,
language is not.
And then I get told that I'm not. It's like, well, nobody's speaking their indigenous tongue. Like nobody.
Exactly. So then stop it then.
But the thing is, I am indigenous. No, you're just trying to find.
Where were you born? Where were you born? Where were you born? Where were you born? Where were you born?
What's that? We're not. What's that?
Where were you born?
In Arizona.
Damn.
Okay.
You know, Arizona used to be Mexico, right?
Is that where your family, your tribe is from?
Yes.
Quetzalcoatl and them?
What's that?
Quetzalcoatl and them was from there. That's whoever your tribe is. Chichen Itza, fucking Teotihuacan, wherever you're from.
Are you trying to tell me where I come from or who I come from? Is that what
I asked about? There were question marks at the end of every sentence I asked.
See, this is how I know you're not from my culture. This is how
I didn't say I'm not. I know I'm not. Boy, you ain't from Trinidad. You ain't from Trini. You're not Trini.
Suddenly now he has an accent. Are you not Trini? Are you not Trini? He's really trying hard. It's at this point I'll tell you what I felt like during the conversation. I felt like, are we dating right now? Because you're arguing with me like a boyfriend. Like that's what you're doing. And I know that I'm not supposed to use what I am as an insult, but I don't mind admitting sometimes straight men act like fags, and you're acting like a fag right now. That's the way I really felt. I felt like this is some fag that I'm arguing with. Our date hasn't worked out. It's the end of the night. We've both had enough of being nice with each other. It's a real world moment. It's what people do when they stop being nice and start getting real. Go on, girl. Let me hear you. Let me hear you, Miss Thang.
What do you do now? Make yourself feel better. I get it.
No, we're not the same culture. Latino. I'm trying to show you. I'm trying to show you the spectrum of Latino.
He's trying to show me the spectrum of Latino. He's trying to show me. Black Pedro is trying to show me the spectrum of Latino. See, this is the difference between me and other people. Is I would not try to tell him the spectrum of black because I'm not black. Like I am self-aware enough to know that, but for some reason they think what I am is at their discretion. All right, you make the rules. Have at it, girl. I'm not going to tell you what to do. You and your man trying to team up and still can't get it done. Damn. It's the worst gangbang I've ever been a part of. And I'm not usually the bottom. Well, I don't think I turned out to be the bottom on this one either.
And you don't have anything exciting to say, so instead you try to troll, and it's good. And I appreciate you guys having me.
Hold up. Do you really think I need to troll or Pedro needs to troll? Do you really think? No, Ty, since you want to bring up.
It's hard dealing with two bottoms. I've dealt with that even recently. I can't keep up anymore. It's my birthday.
Hold up. You wanted to bring up career. Oh, wow. Okay.
They bounce. There you go. Okay, and that's what it is.
That's what it is.
You didn't think I was going to let these two suckers get the last word, did you? Of course I'm not. It's not the way this works. I'm not that kind of bitch. Let's hear them lick their wounds now. We're almost done.
The shit went a little more left than I anticipated. Wow. I didn't expect that. I really did try.
I honestly did. I did. I
didn't.
Like I said, I've never had a conversation with him, but you know, I could just see he's a problem as a person.
What happened was they thought they were going to push me around. He thought it was going to be one of those conversations where they were going to make me look stupid, and instead they got their asses handed to them. So you're right. You should have known that was going to happen. Anybody that's dealt with my online presence would know that would happen. And the fact that you would think that it wouldn't happen because you're dealing with me, like technically the typing slows me down in a lot of cases. Everybody knows that I hand people's asses to them all the time on social media. So really, you should have known that when I'm able to speak instead of actually having to type, then I'm really going to go after you. So our you two nothings didn't realize that that's the way this was going to go down. You thought you guys had an easy mark and that you guys were going to make me look stupid. And now you guys are actually offended because the person that you brought on to push around didn't let you push them around. And that's what you're mad about. That's what's so insulting to you. And I did contact Shang afterwards and tell him that it was good talking to him. And this was before I fully didn't respect Shang, because there was a minute there where I felt like, okay, me and Shang are still cool, but Just, you could have done better. Like when I asked for topics that day, you said you were going to send me topics. You could have sent me what the 4 questions were. That would have been a way to handle it. And you could have said, hey, we asked that you answer these 4 questions in as short a form as possible, and then we'll go discuss them later, because that's what one of his audience members ended up telling us later on a thread that she jumped on of mine, where she was trying to say that that's the regular format of the show. Did you say format? Because I wasn't told there was a format, and I specifically asked if there was a format. But you guys didn't want to tell me what the format was because you guys wanted to blindside me. Well, okay, sometimes when you back an animal into the corner, it scratches the shit out of you. So did you guys not expect this to happen? Clearly you didn't. You should have known it would happen. Here's my advice. Don't invite anybody on your podcast that you don't plan to treat with respect, because you're going to find another one like me. And what happened was they had this on their Facebook and their YouTube, and I sent Shang a message saying, if you want to put your links in any of the posts where I talk about this, feel free to do that. And I let him know ahead of time, because at that point, it's all like WWE for me. Like, we shot it, it's done. Your co-host could have done better. I thought Pedro was pretty disrespectful just in the way that he was handling things. I thought he really is the one that derailed everything, and Shang was just too timid, I guess you could say, or not assertive enough to stand up to Pedro and be like, yeah, we kind of should respect his time, and we kind of should at least hear him out. But then Shang is the one who had the biggest violation, because he tried to stop me on the Mexican question, or he did stop me on the Mexican question, and that's when they really should have let me talk. Like, you have a Mexican that voted for Trump, and you want to talk about Trump and Mexicans, then I'm a good person to talk about that. But you couldn't let me talk then, because then you're too worried, because I make too much sense, because I'm too middle of the road, because I'm not feeding into the narrative that you're trying to set up. So then Shane gets upset because I share their post, after, I told him he could put the links on, and he didn't choose to do it. So this had been up since Thursday, and then I put it up then I found it on Saturday, or noticed it on Saturday on their page, and I was like, why do they have it up and they haven't promoted me or tagged me or let people know that I'm on? Like, that's the point of having a guest, is so that they could promote. And so I was a little annoyed already, because Shang had put something on my page, not talk to me directly. Like, you want to talk about bitch shit. This is bitch shit. This is bitch shit. No, bitch shit is when somebody actually sends you a direct message and you don't respond to that. Instead, you decide to post on my actual thread, which I'm still fine with, because either way, it's going to go down the way it's going to go down. But I would have thought that since you're so big on being a man, that you would have hit me up directly, because I hit you up directly. I went straight to your DM right after this, right after I put one post up, and I was like, okay, well, this is where we start promotion for the show. So get ready to rumble. And so, and that's really the way I feel about it. So then he doesn't tell me about it Thursday or Friday. Saturday morning, I see it on his page. And I was like, well, why hasn't he shared these links? Because people have been talking about it. People have been asking me where they can see it. He doesn't want to let anybody know where he can see it. And he's tagged, so he knows there's comments coming in. That's the way Facebook works. And so he doesn't choose to let me know. So Saturday, I share it, as well as a few choice thoughts and how I feel about him and Pedro. And then within just over 12 hours, I think it was 14 hours, I had them, because there was 50 views on it, and then it was already up to 300 views. And that was with just that one post. I hadn't even really it was just one post, and then here's this. And so I got you an over 500% increase in your views. And how about a thank you? Instead, they take it down, because my friends, who I respect the way my friends handle things, because nobody went unproductive about it. They were just like, yeah, they didn't let you speak. Yeah, they weren't very respectful. Like, these were the kinds of things people were saying. People weren't going for the low-end insults, saying racist things, any of that stuff. But here they are getting homophobic, which is what bothered me afterwards, because I hate when guys do that, because guys will be real cool with you and act like they're treating you like another man. But then they get real disrespectful when they start bringing up gay shit, because that's their card. That's the dumbest people in the world. That's their card, is to go to homophobia. And then they start trying to get threatening. You'll notice that too, where he's like, well, I'm going to see him in real life. And it's like, oh, now I'm a man again. Okay, I see how this works. So I'm not a man when you're trying to argue with me online. But then when you see me in real life, then I'll be a man again. Okay, well, how about we just assume I'm a man all the time? How about we just assume that when you come up to me in public, you're going to hear shit you don't like, which is also something I sent him in DM. I sent him that before he came after me. So they ended up taking it down off of Facebook. And then a friend of mine hit me up and was like, I'm watching it on YouTube. And I didn't know it was even up on YouTube. So they didn't even tell me that. So I didn't even know it was up on YouTube. So then I go to the YouTube and I rip it, and that's how you guys get to see this. So it is what it is. Sorry, Shang. You should have, I don't know, get smarter about the way you use the internet. He was saying old man shit even on the thing. He was like, why would you put this on my page? I was like, I didn't put it on your page. I tagged you. So if you tag a person, it goes on their page. But you're supposed to promote podcasts. Then I called Shang out because he buys Instagram followers. It's not my fault you bought 50,000 worth of Instagram followers because he had 53,000 Instagram followers and 8 likes on a post from November. And then he says he got hacked, which is like, that makes no sense. Who hacks you and then adds followers? Who would ever do that? That makes no sense at all. Like, you bought Instagram followers. You won't speak in facts. But you don't want to be factual about that. Your video, which had nothing to do with me, it was an old video you put up on his Instagram. Again, 50,000 followers. Had 237 views. 237 views. Not 237 likes. 237 views. Those are not the numbers of a 50,000 account, a 53,000 person account. It's just not the way it works.
You know what I mean? Like, when I say he's bold on stage, like, I mean that. He speaks his truth and he says it out loud, but on this show, yeah, that wasn't gonna be it, dog.
Did I get mad for a minute there? Could you tell?
I mean, it's an annoying personality,
He's an exciting guest. That's what he said.
You're right. I wasn't an exciting guest. I didn't get you from 50 views to 314 hours. That wasn't me at all. That was your not promoting, because he had done no promotion. I could put up the one post. It was the one post that day with the fucking thing. But I had built up the anticipation. I did everything you're supposed to do. I'm a good podcast guest all the way around. And that's the other thing. I've done some of the big, Tim Dillon show. I was on that 2 weeks ago. That's one of the biggest podcasts in the country. It's definitely one of the biggest comedy podcasts for sure. And me and Tim had a great conversation. We're friends. He doesn't agree with everything that I say or everything, and he even asked me about Trump. He mentioned it. We had a laugh about it. That's the way I am. I have a sense of humor about this stuff. I'm just not going to let you shit on me. That's not going to happen. So it is what it is. Sorry, Shang. Sorry you mistook yourself for being more than you were. Sorry you thought you and Black Pedro were going to give me the business, instead got the business.
He sat side saddle most of the show.
Yeah, but
it's a weird thing.
What made me not mad, but it did. Fuck that. I'm gonna keep it real. It made me mad was not his stance on Trump, not his stance on the shit I didn't agree with.
There's no stance.
It was no stance, but it was. Why did you bring that shit up? What does that have to do with anything?
That's what you do when you're losing, man. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate the audience, man. I put a few things up, but obviously y'all are never going to be with that voice. It's not a thing here. But
all right, I will take responsibility for anybody in the feed, but you guys stayed and y'all were like, wow. It wasn't as much as he was Trump supporter as he was just, indignant when he didn't need to be. And to bring up things, the career thing and stuff is what made me angry. And it turned to the fuck are you saying? That's when it turned from me saying, how do you feel about Trump that was some bitch shit. You know what I'm saying? That was some bitch shit. That was some run hand shit. And so
listen, it's just always interesting when it goes straight to, oh, you guys are dumb, or, this is why I don't like talking to stupid people, or, oh, I've never heard of you, so you must not be good. That's just a weird thing to say, man.
Yeah, but you know what was good?
Listen, I've showed up in so many cities and been like, oh man, who the fuck is this guy? He's amazing. Or who is this chick? She's fantastic. even in LA, sometimes you're just like, oh, I've never seen this person before.
Right. I did that.
Even if you hang out in the club all the time, it might be somebody new in town from some other town, and they show up and they do the damn thing. And you ain't never heard of them, but they weren't just good that night because you were there and got to see it. Like, no, motherfucker, like that's not how any of that works. But those are always funny comments to me.
Those are always funny comments to you. So a lot of people have told you you're not shit. Maybe it's because you're not shit. And Shang mentioning Jack Knight, like that's the problem with Shang. Shang doesn't get out enough. That's why he's been doing the same material since like early 2000s. Like Shang doesn't do anything new. Maybe he has new material now, hopefully, but Shang's known for being a hack. Like everybody knows that. Is doing recycled shit from old school. It's like his stuff isn't relevant, just like his thinking here shows you how he doesn't grow. Like you're not gonna grow by being that way. So I guess like, but not knowing Jack Knight, I know Jack Knight forever now, because Jack Knight is a comic that would go out to all the open mics. Like, you know, he's booked some stuff and he's been on Netflix. He's, you know, writing for different shows, written for different shows. Jack Knight is an actual comic on the scene though, but I've known Jack Knight for quite a while now, and he knows me for quite a while now, since Jack Knight first started on the LA scene. So the fact that you didn't know Jack Knight even tells me that you're not getting out enough. Like just because you did some shit back in the early 2000s or the late 90s or whenever it was that you were really relevant, because I have no doubt that Shang was hot at a point, but just by the time I had jumped on the scene, he was already doing shit that everybody was like, yeah, that's the old style. It's like still reminiscent of Def Jam, which is what they told him when he tried to sell his special, which I played the little bits from. People were like, yeah, it's just not current. And he thought that they were being racist, but nobody was being racist. It's just not current. It's not always an insult when people tell you what you're doing isn't hitting the mark. It's not always racist. You can't dismiss it that way. Believe me. I have those moments with myself where I'm like, what are you doing?
Because, you know, yeah, I laughed at things he said while he was saying them, but that was an honest reaction. Like, it was funny to me that he said that thing. I don't even remember what I laughed at specifically, but it's just always interesting.
But he wasn't answering the questions, number one. That made me like go there.
I think we all saw. I did answer the questions. They just didn't like the answers. Like it started with Joe Biden. I said Joe Biden is our president. And then they're the ones that went into the explanation. They just didn't expect me to actually have anything to say. They thought they were going to project an explanation onto me, and I was just going to go with that. The QAnon question I answered very quickly. The question, what was the other stupid question that I got? The racist or rich or both? Like, I told them that was a dumb question. That's when I felt like my intelligence was being insulted. That was question number 4. I can't even remember the other question they asked me. It doesn't matter. They were dumb questions, and I answered 3, and then we got to 4. That's when I was like, yeah, I just think you're dumb. And I don't care that at that point I didn't answer questions. There were questions I did answer, but like once you insult my intelligence, once I feel like you're wasting my time, yeah, you get what you get. And what you got was an exciting podcast guest. Nobody else has been talking about your podcast at any other point. You two buffoons haven't been able to get it done for this long. So somebody came along and was actually good. And then they removed it from both Facebook and YouTube because they don't know how to do marketing either.
He responded, but I don't think he, Eve said I should have compared degrees with her.
Yeah, that's a good trick when you misgender somebody just so that you can make your point. I don't mind when people do that because I joke and call myself a woman all the time. So I'm not tripping at all, but I will mention the homophobia of it all.
Here's the thing. Once Shang brought, that's why I wouldn't bring it up, because I knew once he started calling us stupid, the automatic response is going to be, I don't care what school you went to. You can still be done. And I agree with that. Ted Cruz went to my school. Like, he's a fucking idiot. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't, that's not my benchmark of what proved I was intelligent. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got in and I ain't worried about that.
I think it is proof of your intelligence. Stop. I'm gonna tell you
when they go there, but when
that's right, Shang. Build her back up, girl. Let her know she's better than that. She deserves better than that. She don't deserve no faggot like me to be talking to her like that. She's a woman. She's accomplished some shit. She's a sophisticated young lady, and she don't got to take this guff off of nobody.
But when people go there like that, like, oh, well, you're just dumb or you're just that, it's like, bro, I'm asking you, do you believe 400,000 people died from COVID? And he's like, well, I think that 400,000 people had it and died, but didn't die from it. I'm like, nigga, to no. Your answer is no. You don't believe 400,000 people died from COVID.
That's the hill you want to die on? Really? With all we know, that's the hill you want to die on? Okay.
Like, we can move on. But he wants to explain and try and sidestep. And I'm like, you don't even see what it is right now. Like, you don't have to explain here. Like, I assume that you probably didn't, and you don't. And I'm not putting words in your mouth. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's, but it's interesting. I'm not sure moving forward we need to step into that mindset anymore of those people. I am,
Well, the people that are here on watching the show and listening to the show, Savage AF, we went a little bit long today, and I want to let you know, didn't plan on it. I really thought it was going to be one segment. I think it went left when he started saying, when you laughed at something that was funny.
That's when they thought it went left. They didn't think it went left when Black Pedro was asking the questions, the dumbest questions ever. Like, that's when it went left. They didn't think it went left when they didn't get me the topics ahead of time so they could try to blindside me. That wasn't when they thought it went left. All right, you're right. It didn't go left until I decided to snap on you. That's when I decided to really break you both down. That's when it went left. You're right. That's probably where it went left for you guys.
I don't even remember what it was.
Yeah, no, he was just. But I didn't know he was.
You laughed at me. I'm like, bitch, we comics.
No, we not comics. I'm a comic. We not comics.
Yeah, like, it's like right. Yeah, he said, "I don't know you." Well, the sun comes up in Japan because you didn't see it.
That
don't mean it. Yeah.
Neither you are the sun here, Japan, or anywhere else. So stop using that analogy. You're not the sun, not the moon, neither, not the stars, none of it. Dust.
Yeah, exactly. I just feel like that did bother me. That bothered me a lot.
Oh, it bothered you. Well, get unbothered, girl. Get unbothered.
And that's why my tone changed. And that's when I was like, a lot more.
Back, like, all right, it's my turn to moderate, I guess. At first, you were like, well, hold on, guys. Now listen.
Come on.
Like, come on, Black Pedro, come on.
Tell us when you tone down and come on, man. But then it turned to, hey, yo, fuck you with that bitch shit. All right. I was going to say, listen, Sprinkles. First off, listen, Glitter.
No, that's too easy. And,
I know, but I didn't do that.
I didn't try to bait people into that. I could already tell.
But I didn't expect, but I didn't. But I'm saying, yo, he did get a little out of pocket. And when the COVID shit's over and I'm at a club, I'm going to run into him. I'm going to say, yeah, you got a little out of pocket.
I sent Shang a direct message as soon as I heard that part because I hadn't heard, like I said, I hadn't seen the show. So I sent him a direct message telling him he's fake. And I told him that when you see me in public or out in the world, feel free to come up and be prepared to hear a bunch of shit you don't like then too. Like, nothing changes here. I am consistent. So you handle this however you feel like you have to handle it, Shang. Believe me, I'm not worried about seeing you in real life. I've never had the luxury of being worried about seeing people in real life. It is what it is. I'll see you when I see you.
I'm standing here now, bro. I really am. Yeah, no, and then he'll say something to me because he said that online. He said the shit he said to me.
I've never talked to Shang online outside of the times that we talked to set this podcast up. That, and there was also when I tried to get him on my podcast back in 2016, and our correspondence was just about the podcast. Outside of that, the only times I've talked to Shang have been person to person, face to face. Like when I said the Laugh Factory, San Manuel happened, that situation where he started getting loud, that was in person. Obviously it was backstage and it was just me and him. It wasn't like there was like, like maybe there was another comic or two or something like that, but it wasn't like, there was anything to start. Space and opportunity. But
when we were doing shows, I ain't hear none of that rah. I ain't hear none of that rah. So it was, I get it. But to say the little bitch shit he said made me mad, Pedro. Sorry. But aside from that, the people that are watching, you got to see another side of the show, and it was that won't happen again.
It's just what we do here, man. We experiment.
But how did you knew? I didn't know.
He said I was feisty in the introduction, so he didn't know. He didn't have an idea. Did he think I was just gonna? what did he think was going to happen? I don't know what they thought was going to happen. Did they think they were just going to push me around and I was just going to be like, oh, you guys are so good? It's like, no, especially not YouTube buffoons. I mean, like, at least if it was somebody smart and it was like they were saying stuff that I was just like, yeah, I wasn't aware of that. I didn't know that. Those are actual facts and statistics. But they mistake, like, you know, feelings for being facts. And that's just what it is. Like, you know, yeah, if we can talk about your feelings sometime if you need me to play therapist, but that wasn't what I was trying to do. I mean, like, I didn't mind if we all talked about feelings or all talked about facts or all talked about a mix of facts and feelings. But when you're acting like you're talking in facts and you're really not, like, you don't, Shang didn't even know the facts of anything. Like, he kept having to be corrected even by Pedro. So, yeah. And then Pedro thinking he's a comedian, not a fact. Sorry.
I didn't know he was.
Like I said, I've never interacted with him until now, and he acknowledged that I, you know, since I don't exist in his world, I'm not good. You know, but I could tell by his persona that he is a diva. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, a queen, as you would call him, and I don't mean that in the sense of necessarily sexuality, but more of the persona, like an heir or an heiress, somebody who has an entitled sense about them. And this can happen with people of color.
This can happen with people of color. People of color aren't supposed to feel like they are owed any respect, right? That's what he's saying. Like, it's like, and this can happen with people of color. Like, usually we're supposed to beat them down pretty easily. People of color are supposed to be shown to their places and know that that's where they belong. So he didn't allow us to do that, although I have gone to Princeton. I have a degree, architecture. But, yeah, that's, I am, I'd like to say I'm a comedian, but I'm really not. I was out of my depth, but rather than admit that, I'll just act like it was his personality, because other personalities would humor me and pretend that I'm their equal when I'm really not. I am a subpar comedian that has been opening for a mid-level headliner for 16 years. So I've never even grown out of that. In 16 years, nobody has ever looked at me and said, you should be a headliner. Instead, they've been like, are you coming back with Shang next year? And all 16 years, I've been able to say, yes, I'm coming back with Shang. Because otherwise, I won't work.
You know what I mean? You can be from Arizona and claim indigenous.
Wasn't he supposed to be smart? Isn't he supposed to be the Princeton guy?
You can do a lot in your head. You know what I mean? I could just see that there was a thing about him that is, you know, he's a blue M&M comic. You know,
yes, savage AF. People in the feed, hilarious, mean old lady. That's just what's wrong with y'all? But you know what? He was no, he wasn't a mean old lady. But
yeah, I guess he was not that old. But
no,
wow, he was a mean lady.
Hold up, it wasn't homophobic. What did we say that was homophobic? Wait a minute, what the fuck are you talking about?
See, somebody just called him out. They put Pedro switching from racist to homophobic comments, covering a lot. And Shang can't accept it because he doesn't realize that that's what they're doing. I'm not going to victim out over it, but that's what they're doing. They're doing homophobia. And even the part about, like, not being indigenous and there's no such thing as full Mexican. And the stuff he was saying, like, they don't even realize that that's technically, especially according to woke rules, which is what they half-ass pretend to be, it's racism and homophobia. But again, too dumb to know it. It's Princeton. Who'd have thunk?
How is that racist or homophobic?
That's nobody.
Even though I'm a little tight about some of this shit, and he just messaged me. I can see a little note that came up. He messaged me. Well, if I'm such a loser, why are you fucking messaging me? Fuck out of it, man. Yeah. Like, I swear to God, I was so close to becoming Charlie Murphy. Come over there, come over there, take your face and put it on the curb. Bust you the fuck. Again, I didn't. Pedro knew more than me when it came to the tone. I thought he was going to stick within the parameters of what we were asking, and it went left.
Like I said, what he thought was they were just going to punk me out and I was going to go along with it, and that didn't end up happening. Those were the parameters of the show. So I don't know why they're trying to make it seem like I went off topic. I really didn't. Like, when you're telling me the way that comics interact with each other and you're not a comic, I'm going to tell you you're not a comic. That's when you really get on my fucking nerves. And everybody knows that you can talk all the shit you want about me, but I definitely do stand up. I have been doing stand up. So, yes, I may not be the nicest person in the world. I may not be a political pundit. I may not know as much as maybe a person that's gone to Princeton. I may not know how to buy Instagram followers. I admit I have no idea how to buy Instagram followers. I've never been on BET Comic View. I've never been on Def Jam. It's what it is. Some of us aren't going to be perfect, Shang. I've never claimed to be a race other than what I am. I've never claimed to be black when I'm not black. Just like Pedro had decided to claim that he was Latino when he doesn't identify as Latino. But his grandfather on his mother's side is Latino. So that means now he speaks for Mexicans. We're not the same. We ain't built the same, as the kids would say. So the most important thing for both of these two goons that they should remember is just, don't call your podcast savage as fuck and say your motto is fuck your feelings if you're going to get mad or your feelings hurt when your guest is savage and fuck and says fuck your feelings. That's what I would say. Anyway, this has been Thai Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world.